PCB chemicals, which got banned in the 1970s, still
Yeah.
in their bloodstream, particularly storing it in their blubber. And I think it was like 7 to 18 milligrams or whatever it was per kilogram of blubber. And anything above that was starting to affect their behavior or their breeding. And
Mm.
one washed up on Tyre. I think it was Tyre, but it was one of the islands. And there was definitely one did wash up on Tyre that had died. And it had over 10 times that amount. It had 700 and something, 40 odd milligrams. And they were astonished that it was even still alive. But it's because they're apex. So they just eat everything else that's collected it up, because most of it comes down the rivers and is collected up by plankton. And then the slightly bigger fish eat the plankton, and then the slightly bigger fish eat the littler fish, and then
which is why we're advised to buy small fish and eat small fish, aren't we? Because
fish are a big problem, I'm afraid.
Less polluted,
wherever they come from.
But it's wicked, really.
It is.
What man just rides over all these other animals, which have intelligence and all sorts of values in them, don't they? Not just.
And I think perhaps what's worse now is we know this now, and we're still not really doing much about it.
That's right. That's right. And we've wrecked a lot of the soil for the same of killing all the little bugs and things in the soil, which are, that's the animals that we're wrecking.
I was reading a book about written by a farmer just the other side of Kendal recently, and he's written quite a few about it. He's reminiscing on the old farming techniques and comparing them with the modern ones, and saying how we are destroying the land. And one thing stuck in my mind in this book was remembering, and you'll all remember this, of tractors going across a ploughed field with flocks of seagulls and crows full of them, because of all the insects and things that were in the soil. Well, they don't now. You don't see anything following the tractor, because
we've killed some much of the soil in the slip.
And that's just awful. Yeah.
And we've taken the cattle off, which we should fertilise it. Put them on pens.
Yeah.
And, it's sort of nonsensical. I mean, when they used to do I forgot what it was called, when they had 3 fields, they had one with the animals in, the next one
rotation,
the next one for that something of the 3 fields, which seemed to work really well.
And has done for centuries. Crop rotation. Absolutely.
That's right. I couldn't remember the word for it.
Very right.
Just started reading one about trees at the moment and the fungal connections between them. And this scientist who's working for a logging company was saying that her family in Canada had logged trees for years, for nearly a century, and how they didn't clear strip of land. So they left some trees, and every time the new saplings grew up really quickly and healthily. And yet where they've clear stripped the land, these saplings don't grow very quickly, and a lot of them die. And that's because that the ground is, again, killed the fungal stuff in it, because you need to keep 1 or 2 trees to keep the fungal network going. We feed them with all the nutrients. And I thought, wow, isn't it amazing?
We rush into things before we understand it. Don't we know, dear? We've wrecked it.
This is one of the tragedies in comparing farming in South Wales compared to West Wales. In South Wales, lots of farmers just leave odd trees in the middle of nowhere, and you can understand why. In West Wales, they just get rid of the lot. Right. So where we are, we've kept all our trees. Right. It's like no trees, very little trees, no trees, a big clump of trees on the top of the hill, and then no trees again. And it's just like thinking, and they're just, all they're doing is using the landscape for sheep farming, and that's all they're using it for. What we're finding as well is archaeologically, they clear everything. So they
exactly.
It's I had no idea how bad it was, but there was a long ban which was just down the road from me, a ruinous long ban in the field. It wasn't doing any harm. It'd been there for about 300 years. And then I drove around the corner about 2 months ago, and it was cleared, because all they want to do is that little extra patch for some more sheep grazing. But what the problem is that with this type of weather, there's no shelter for anything, and the sheep need shelter. And if you're clearing everything, then they've got no shelter.
No.
Those ruinous little bits of wall are ideal for sheep to shelter behind, and it keeps it's just. But what it is, it's the difference is it's a different type of farming. It's bring the sheep in November. They have their lambs in sort of end of February, March, and April. They fatten them up, and then they take all that to market, leave the ground, leave nothing here for about 3 months, and then it goes through the cycle again. And that's the continuous cycle. And it's there's no rotation. And there's no care for anything. There's no crops being planted.
One of my neighbours, because we've got sheep just out of the window, and she was saying where the sheep have been lying, but while it's been dry, they've been on the grass.
Yeah,
where they're laying, the grass has died, not just And she wonders whether it's the sort of dip they put on them, or chemicals that they're putting on the sheep that is getting onto the grass to kill it, because it's where sheep lie.
It's the lanolin, it's the chemicals, it's everything, and the problem is it's now it's quite critical, because we have absolutely got no water on site now, so we've got to bring it all in.
Yeah.
So me and Michelle are drinking cans of drink because milk's not lasting.
No.
The water's got to be used to feed the animals. So it's just like, but that's a small example. It's the farming industry is so far distant from what the landscape needs, and then farmers come back and they say, oh, the government isn't being nice to farmers, blah blah blah. But it's the way farming is. And one thing that Jeremy Clarkson, whether you like him or not, Jeremy Clarkson has actually proven that farming can survive as long as you alternate things, as long as you do be diverse, right? The problem is with these types of farmers, they just do the same thing over and over and over again. There's no diversity, right? No. That's what's killing the farming industry. Yeah. And then people wonder that if for example, lamb and mutton, it becomes unpopular, right? What are these farmers going to do? Because it's not suitable for anything else.
Yep.
It's likely to become more popular, though, I think, how the health situation's changing.
And what's going to be more popular?
I would think eating all meat will become more popular.
Oh, right. And it's very odd you actually say that, because I'm surprised you said that, but you are very, very right, because me and Michelle are vegetarians, right? And it's been a cycle for the past year. I can remember going into a co-op in Barry, and I said, I've got a long journey. I want a vegetarian pasty. So we don't stop there. We don't stock any vegetarian stuff anymore because there's no call for it. And I just think, what? And it's like we don't stock any of that stuff anymore. Nobody wants vegetarian stuff. So I go to another outlet, and it's similar. And then I know you don't like this, Anne, but I went to it was a McDonald's in Merthyr Tydfil, right? And I said, do you have any veggie burgers? No. Oh, did you have the McPlant burgers? And they said, no, we don't do any vegetarian stuff at all, because there's no call for vegetarian stuff in McDonald's. And I'm just thinking, and then I went to another McDonald's. They had to specifically open a bag of vegetarian burgers or whatever, right, for me to eat one, right, because there's no call for it. And you are completely correct. And I'm not understanding. I'm not understanding this. I'm really not. The vegetarian vegan thing is dead. Vegetarian restaurants and all these types of things are closing down, and it's a lot to do with the fact that vegetarian food is extremely expensive. And what they've done instead of back in the day when they started doing veggie burgers, right, there were actually vegetables in them, right? There were vegetables compacted with flour, with in batter, right? Okay, the batter's not the good thing, but these were These were proper they were vegetable burgers, proper fresh vegetables put together, frozen, and then whatever. Right. So, you know, that was fairly healthy.
I don't know why they become more expensive, because the more rubbishy they make them, the cheaper it becomes, don't they? They do it for cheapness usually. I'm not saying every time, but usually you'd expect something that was made of junk. I mean, real vegetables are worth eating, aren't they?
Well, real vegetables are worth eating, and it's not. It's quite shocking the way it's gone. It really is. It just doesn't make any sense.
I don't think it's a coincidence that there were a few years ago going on about how much methane cows and things produce and how much food we have to waste to feed the meat-eating animals, which is not a particularly efficient cycle. So people started cutting back on their meat. And then suddenly there's this big campaign to eat more meat, and steak comes back. You know, steak houses come back on the menu.
Yes.
High protein diets.
Yes.
You know, it's not a coincidence that this has been marketed down the last 5 to 10 years, and suddenly people are eating a lot more meat again. You know,
yeah. I can't physically eat meat. So and there's people say, oh, you know, oh, you're a vegetarian, I bet you would love to eat. I like this. The idea of eating meat makes me feel sick, but not because I physically can't digest it. There's dogs that can't physically eat meat, right? I've got a neighbor. He just his dog will not eat meat, right? And it's just like thinking, well, there's things, as you say, Andy. It's an odd situation to be in. Very, very odd, very odd. We're gonna have to get started. There's nobody else going to come and join us tonight, but it's a shame that Roger can't be bothered. But you know, nobody wants Roger on anyway, so that's life.
Poor Roger.
Poor Roger. Hey, oh, Roger there. Oh, sorry, Roger. I'm talking about somebody else.
Volume's down tonight. It might be just me.
I gotta say this. Apparently, right, wink, wink, Claire was seen at Fishbourne Roman Palace with a man.
Oh.
And that's
it. The
it.
volume's down for me. Is it okay there?
Well, I've seen him walking down the street with a man.
Oh yeah, but this was another man.
Oh.
Yeah, she was definitely down that way. It was her birthday, so she was down that way a couple of weeks ago. Last week.
She was visiting her sister. Yeah.
No, not a sister. Her sister's dead.
Oh Christ! Oh, a friend. She's got a good friend there. Yeah.
Yes, friend. Yeah.
Is that sounding better?
Actually, no. Worse.
No.
No, you were actually better before.
Oh bloody hell! I just hang on a minute. What about that?
That's lovely. Yes.
Is it?
Yeah.
How you doing, love? How you doing, Ducky? Oh, right, lovely. Oh, lovely. Is that sounding really clear? Do I sound in a high voice?
Too much helium.
Oh, right. Okay. Right. So yeah, there's so many bloody flies about that we got the citronelle spray. There we go. Right. When Roger comes on, we'll stop slagging him off. Oh, Roger, any news?
No, nothing particular.
And Roger, we're doing a little piece on your Roman thing finally in the magazine. I can't hear us. Right, Andy.
Well, I was just watching the news tonight, and what was it? 49 million quid dinosaur sold.
What?
You sure it was? You sure it was $49,003?
Well, it might have been. It was in dollars, so they just round it up, don't they? So
yeah.
But yeah, it was a full-size T-Rex that had been excavated in the States, put back together again. Which was very nice. But I thought, wow, $49 million or whatever it was. Who can afford that? And they were just saying that.
I mean, you wouldn't think anybody private would want it. You would think it would be a big museum or something to show it.
I'm kind of, you know, being the optimist. I'm hoping that some entrepreneur has bought it to give it to a museum, because a museum certainly can't afford that. So. But it won't be Kendall Museum, I don't think.
No.
I'm sure Claire would give it a go.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Please, can we have our dinosaur back?
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
One of our dinosaurs is missing. Wasn't that what I remember, right?
Yeah, that's true. Well, talking about dinosaurs, Sam Neill passing away yesterday.
Yes, that was a shame. Yeah, I like Sam Neill.
Yeah, me too.
Done a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
Do you know, I was I've done some videos on him yesterday, and do you know, he was a big fan of farm animals and stuff. He had pigs and all sorts of things.
And Bonnie Tyler. Bad week.
Oh, total eclipse of my ass. There you go.
Yeah.
And Bonnie Tyler. The one thing that I noticed with the coverage of Sam Neill, it was massive, right?
Yeah.
Bonnie Tyler was fairly big as well, but there are like some people that who just pass away and you don't know, and suddenly you think, oh, that person passed away a year ago. I can remember back in the 1980s when there was a big actor who died, and I remember my parents saying, hey, you know, that's a big actor who's died, you know, and John Le Mesurier, and I just remember that, and he remember him dying. It was a massive fanfare, and Bob Hope, because I actually knew Bob Hope. But some people you just disappear. Anyway, I've lost what we're supposed to be doing. Right, Anne, it's your fault, Anne. You go on and on about food. You talk about vegetarian stuff and farming. I don't have a word in edgeways. Andy can't say anything. You just go on and on and on. Anything you want to say, Anne?
Yeah, I like the animal chat today.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it.
It was good. I gotta be honest with you. I was I needed to work in the woodland, so I thought, right, so I'm gonna call Snowflake, and Snowflake's bounding across the field, jumping up in the air, jumping up across the road, right, to follow me into the woodland, right. And then I realized we've planted all this sort of herb garden, and I thought I got to cover it all up with buckets and stuff, right, so she don't gobble it all up. And then I'm working there, and she's just sat there waiting for me to move. And I can't do anything without her following me. And it's
lovely, no, isn't it? It's lovely that she has that attachment with you. Yeah, it's really nice. Really nice.
When I promised her mum I'd look after her, right, I had no idea this was going to happen, right? I remember underneath her here, an hour before her mum passed away, I remember stroking her on and said, you're a wonderful mum, right? She didn't tell me that she taught her how to do everything, including don't leave this guy's side, whatever you do, just keep him in, right? He'll look after you, right? Just don't leave his side, and that's it. That's how it's done. So, right, talking about wonderful things, Drina, what about you?
No, I've got no news. Sorry.
Right, and the only one left we've got is Dirty Rog. Roger.
Oh.
Is it me, or he's not coming? Rog.
Yeah, well, my volume's down tonight.
What's that, Rog?
The volume is down. Can you hear me?
I can't hear you, Rog. Well, I'll have to speak up for Roger. What?
Turn the volume up.
Right, you put the volume up, have you, Rog? I don't know what's going on now. Okay, so there were a few other things I could have done tonight, but I've decided not to do them, and it's probably good because we've got a few people away. Judith might be joining us later. I don't know what's happened to Will. I'm worried about David. Margaret's not on tonight, so there we go. So it'd be good if somebody reached out to David to find out where he is. But David's not the easiest person to get hold of. He's not. So when he paid his money, I only saw him for a class, and I haven't seen him since. I I thought, right, thanks, David. You chucked your money over. It's brilliant, loving it. And I thought, right, that's good. But I've only seen him once, and I thought, right, that's not like David, you know. So it'd be good to find out where he is. So tonight, what I'm going to do is answer 2 questions from the past few weeks. The first one is Isle of Wight Roman forts, and you know what? I made a classic mistake of looking at several maps, and it showed a Roman fort on the Isle of Wight. And guess what? They're all wrong. There are no Roman forts on the Isle of Wight. So we've got a whole talk about that, which completely changes everything about what we know about the Isle of Wight, completely. In a Roman era. So the other thing about tin mining in Cornwall, similar question about forts. And we've got Fishbourne part 2 and a bit. I don't think we're going to get through all that, but that's life. So that's life. Who sang that then? Come on.
Perhaps. Sounds like him. Perhaps not.
Frank Sinatra.
That's life. Come on.
It's Frank Sinatra, isn't it?
Of course it is. Oh God. The thing is, it's like you can imagine Bonnie Tyler. She was definitely a Welsh girl when she spoke. It's like she had a very gravelly voice, and I used to love her stuff. But then when she spoke, it was so gravelly. You could tell she came from Neath. That's why me and Roger have avoided having anything to do with Neath girls. Roger would agree. Yeah, there we go. A lovely woman anyway. So anyway, let's just crack on. So we're just going to get to where sharing is caring, and I'm going to suggest to Roger, no, he's not. No, we won't do that, because if I say to Roger, listen on YouTube as well, then it's, and what we're going to do, the same as last week. If, for example, sound goes, or are there any problems, I'll go outside, I'll sit in the field with the sheep, right? So that'll be fine. So I don't know if we're sharing yet, so we're going to do some sharing, caring. And you guys are going to see an image that I have never shown ever. Right, ever, right? Andy, what can you see, babe?
A skeleton in like a kissed grave.
Exactly. Now this is really, really special, right? And I've had to get the I've had to get this image restored because it's going in the book, right? But basically, where this is an image taken. I think it's 1987. And this is taken from a place known as the Atlantic Trading Estate in Barry, and they were excavating a cemetery of humans, obviously. Not necessarily, because we do have a few animal graveyards around Barry, including one containing an elephant. But don't even go there. But so that burial itself is a Roman era burial, right? And they found, I think, about 48 of them, which radiated around a well. And you're just thinking, why have they got a well in the middle of a cemetery with people with loads of different diseases? And there's loads of things like that. But I wanted to show you this because I just come across it the other day in an old photograph album, and I just thought it'd be worthwhile for you to see. And one thing that we know about this burial is obviously it's in a stone-lined kist, but some of these showed signs that they were placed in a wooden coffin in these stone-lined kists. Some of them would have been in shrouds, and you'd have had a head shroud ring, which would have been wider than the foot shroud ring, which would have been narrower. And one thing I can tell you is that you can possibly postulate that this is probably from about the AD 300s onwards, because up until that point, people are being cremated. And with this new silly cult known as, let me guess, Christianity, ever heard of it? People were being buried, and usually without artifacts. And that guy standing there is Ginger White. And do you know why they called him Ginger White? He had ginger hair. Right, okay then. So, so naturally, do you know, guys, I did something very, very naughty. Do you want, Andy, do you want me to confess something?
Yeah, come on, you better add. You know,
right,
it'll only eat away at you.
It's really no way. All right, Andy, I'm going to tell you. All right, basically, you know the university department that's closed. And there's all that was in the magazine, and all the artifacts are still in there, and it's just closed. Lampeter University, right? They've got these brand new doors that were placed on there a couple of weeks before the university closed, which makes no sense. So I got a massive archaeology company sticker with that on it, and I chucked it on the door. and I did it. I did a film of it. How dare I? But there's my confession. There's my confession.
There'll be a truck arriving soon with all the stuff in it at your house, won't there?
Yeah, all right, then fair enough. Fair enough. I'm just going to ask Michelle. Michelle, could you pour some of that water in a cup for me as well, please? And by the way, you've still got some water out there. Anyway, so let's crack on. So here we go. There's two things I want to do tonight, as you know, and we're going to go straight to Cornwall. So I thought this was a really interesting. When we look at this, and interestingly enough, we've got an aerial view, and I'm seeing another fort here, which is actually isn't on the plans or anything, but you've got a fort here. So anyway, let's go back to the beginning. Oh, and by the way, this illustration, that illustration is really interesting because it's a square tower. They found the post holes of a square tower, right, which is really interesting. That's something else. So, by the way, guys, we've got to mention somebody by the name of, hang on, let me think. Peter. Yes, we've got to mention Peter. We've got to. So Pete would love this because it shows the River Tamar completely cutting Cornwall in half from Devon, right? Slight exaggeration, folks, but it's but Pete would love this. Thank you, my dear. Thank you, my darling. Michelle's just bought me a glass of water. So the question is back to my beautiful notes, back to my beautiful absolute notes. And it's so good to have some water. Michelle's been kind enough to get some bottled water for us. So anyway, have you ever had these moments that you've got a blonde moment, then you've totally forgotten what you're doing? Right, I've got one of those, right? So what we've got is I've got a load of notes here, and I'm hopefully going to get through it. So the Roman military west of the River Tamar. Now, Peter would basically say that Cornwall was its own country. Cornwall was separated from Devon by a big river. I don't think it's that sort of whatever. But anyway, so here we go. Roman Cornwall. Did the Romans ever really occupy Cornwall? And I think the answer's looking here. Yeah. So we'll have a little bit of information here, then we'll look at the plan, and we'll keep the plan there. I'm loving this plan. It's great. So what we've got is, unlike Cymru, unlike sort of England, right? Cornwall contains very little obvious military archaeology, right? And that's the point. So unlike Northern England, lots of military archaeology. Unlike Scotland, which is loads of Roman military archaeology. And by the way, we've picked up our first Scottish member as well. I think he's actually from Edinburgh, so he's not joined us tonight, but anyway, I thought I'd mention that. So there are no Hadrian's Wall dividing Devon from Cornwall. Obviously, Devon by name wouldn't have existed, and Cornwall by name wouldn't have existed, but the people of Cornwall were known as the Dumnoni people, and the people of Devon were the Duratrigi people, right? And so on. So there's no Hadrian's Wall, there's no great legionary fortress, Snap, Isle of Wight, and no long chain of forts, Snap, Isle of Wight as well. So there's a good link there. Yet there is increasing evidence that the Roman army did venture west of the River Tamar. Well, did they? There we go. There we go. That's the thing. So the Tamar, a natural frontier. The River Tamar forms the traditional boundary between Devon and Cornwall. And I don't think the River Tamar is that long, but there we go. However, back to the point. So when the Romans invaded Britain, as we know in AD 43, they rapidly occupied Devon. Yes. The Isle of Wight, back of the net. Exeter. And so basically, so we've got Exeter off the map here. So became the legionary fortress of Legio II Augusta. Did they stop there? For many years, archaeologists believe Cornwall remained largely outside direct Roman military control. Today, the picture is much more complicated. So what we've got Exeter University doing extensive research on the network of usable roads in the Roman era. I was going to use the word Roman roads in Britain then, but I just didn't really feel that was appropriate. Roger, I do believe, has been twice to Cornwall with me on our weird little trips to Cornwall. And we did actually go to Bodmin Moor once. And are you hearing me, guys?
Yeah, I can't remember going there, Cornwall.
What was the name of that stone that was called? What was it called? Wild Willie, Michelle? Remember? Brown Willie. Oh, yeah, we all stood on the top of Brown Willie. Roger went to Cornwall with us, didn't he, Michelle?
I thought I was on Dartmoor, wasn't it? All the travel there.
Yeah, we ended up in Cornwall, love. Did you remember? Well. Did you stay at the House of Horrors with us at Tintagel, Rog?
No, forgotten it.
Anyway, don't worry. Anyway, we stood on the top of Brown Willie, right? And when you think about Bodmin Moor and Dartmoor, all these landscapes are completely, vastly endless, and there's just stones and things there. But you're thinking of those landscapes would have been very, very different in the Roman era. Really, really, really different in the Roman era. So the complicated picture, what's complicated about this? What's complicated? Surely the answers are on the screen, but all the answers on the screen are very much to do with the fact that this is what we now know, rather than what we knew about 3 or 4 decades ago. So let's crack on a little bit with my notes a bit more, and we'll look at what we've got on the screen. So why would Rome want Cornwall? Peter would love this. As you know, why would they want to
the tin
Cornwall?
For the bronze.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. But is it that simple, Roger? Right? So, Roger, there are 3 major reasons why they went to Cornwall. So Roger's got one. So let's just look at these. So tin, Cornwall possessed one of Europe's richest tin deposits. Yeah, hey. And by the way, we've got an illustration showing how to turn tin, the rock into sort of the tin that we actually find today, So tin was essential for producing bronze, naturally. Tin is a very sort of supple material without copper, and copper is the same. Anyway, so although the Iron Age had arrived, bronze remained important, as we know, for statues, military fittings, statues of Lloyd George, religious objects, and domestic vessels. Ancient writers such as Pythias, we mentioned this last week. We did mention this last week, and later Diodorus described Britain's western tin trade centuries before the Roman invasion. Rome certainly knew Cornwall's mineral wealth existed. So it makes you wonder, just a couple of questions. Why did they need to conquer Cornwall? What was the point if tin was already coming out of Cornwall? Tin was massive in the 1800s. It was going all the way around the world. There were boatloads of it. But it was naturally like that before AD 43. Slurp, my friends. So anyway, another reason, right? So we've got another reason: trade. Cornwall already possessed Atlantic trading links with Brittany, Spain, and Ireland. So by conquering Cornwall, there's something else going on. There's the supplementary trade. You could go into Cornwall and you'd be trading with Ireland. You could trade with Ireland via ships going to Ireland with tin. So it's a supplementary trade. That's another reason why we need to go into Cornwall and their harbours and their ports and so on. Rome often preferred controlling existing trade rather than creating new routes. So that's a really good point. So by controlling what's going on in Cornwall, and supplementary trade is also a big second reason for wanting to control Cornwall. It really, really is. So next, the third reason, actually, security. Any independent region of the western edge of Britain might become a refuge for resistance. Now, we've never talked about this in any of our corresponding lectures. We'll just read that again. Security. Any independent region on the western edge of Britain might become a refuge for resistance. Now, my French, the Romans were bloody used to this. They were used to this massively. Add Judith in, Andy, please. So thank you. When I don't know if you if any of you have ever read Asterix and the Gauls, or Tommy in school, he used to call it Asterix and the Ghouls. But anyway, we'll crack on with that. So Asterix and the Gauls, with the story of Asterix and the Gauls, I know it's a fantasy story, but they always talked about getting support from the Britons, right? And I remember in some of the stories of Asterix, Julius Caesar's got to conquer the Britons to stop Asterix and his Gauls being helped by the Britons. So back to this point, back to this very, very point, the third point. The army, so when you think about this, the army therefore a good reason to understand the area, even if permanent conquest was unnecessary. The Romans needed to basically say, we came, we saw, we conquered, chuck a standard bearer in there with a legionary eagle, and then it's ours. The Romans were good at this. And you could think that this is going to sound absolute bonkers because we've not fully done Ireland yet. We've not done it fully. You could basically say that maybe a Roman boat went to Ireland and the standard bearer jumped on the shore. In some obscure map in the Roman archives somewhere that has survived, the Romans could say they conquered Ireland. But there was no military presence there. There was, as far as we know, there's no Roman military towns or anything in Ireland. But you see my point. This is what we're saying with Cornwall. So anyway, to this chart, then we're going to go to Nanstallon Fort. We'll go to Nanstallon after we've looked at this. So the Roman military west of the River Tamar. How Rome was Cornwall. Interesting. I would say it says how Roman was Cornwall. I say how Rome was Cornwall. And what we've been talking about is our interpretations of what Rome is, how you feel you are part of Rome. Building Fishbourne, you're part of Rome by building it, not just Roman, but Rome. So the Romans, as we know, AD 43, we've mentioned tin, trade, security, Cornwall's tin, Atlantic trade links, and strategic positioning gave Rome good reason to control the region. But it's controlling the region. Now, then we go back to Julius Caesar. When we talk about Julius Caesar felt that he came, he saw, he conquered, he took tribute, a few bits and pieces, and then he's controlling Britain. This is all in the eyes of the beholder rather than the actual fact. So I think one of the great things about people, famous men, is that their perception that they control everybody. And when a man feels that he controls everybody, he feels very powerful. When in fact, that's not exactly the case. So, but that is the case with the Romans. So Nanstallon fort. The strongest evidence for a Roman military presence, a fort dating to AD 55. It's a bit early, isn't it? That's early, isn't it? So to AD 80, likely occupied by an auxiliary unit for a few decades. So an auxiliary unit, they're not legionaries either. So hang on, just over towards the east, there's Exeter, Roman fort. That would have been Roman legionary garrisons. So why are they sending auxiliaries to Cornwall? Why can't they send, the legionaries to Cornwall? These auxiliaries are just sort of not as well trained as legionaries. So if they're auxiliaries, then this is a second-rate Roman army in Cornwall. Peter, the Romans never needed to send a first-rate Roman army to Cornwall. They sent a second-rate Roman army to Cornwall. Peter's not happy with that, loves. He's not happy. So other sites and finds, evidence from Rostormel. We'll mention about Rostormel. Scattered military objects, possible camps. We'll talk about what that means in a short while. And artifacts suggest Roman troops traveled across Cornwall. So when it's got these little black dots, you can obviously see these little black dots, Lizard Peninsula and, couple just north of Rostormel. That basically what we're talking about there is some artifactual evidence, right? It may be that the Roman soldier dropped something here and there, but that's all we've got, not actual Roman proper military site. So this is the other point. So one of the things with Exeter University, they try to prove that, for example, if you can see it on the map, maybe this route here from Land's End, going all the way, follow the cursor, going all the way through. I think Exeter University said, you know, this possible prehistoric route was followed by the Romans to come into Cornwall, and maybe sort of this route here, which you can sort of define as being Roman, but really it is a lack of Roman roads. This is not proper Roman road surfaces. So this is not a heavily militarized or permanently occupied presence. Again, the same as the Isle of Wight, which hasn't got a permanent military presence, but there's lots of Roman villas there, but that's not the same as Cornwall. There is evidence of Cornwall of people having lots of Roman artifacts, you know, and when we go to the likes of Tintagel, I'm going to take a stab at Tintagel. There it is. When we look at Tintagel, we've got late Roman trade objects where my hand is. I think it's there. I haven't got my geography map on in my head, but what we do see is lots of Roman goods being brought in by trade, particularly in the later periods, you know, the 300s, 400s, and so on. Anyway, so after AD 100, the army withdrew, but trade, farming, and Roman influence continued in quieter days and in quieter ways. So I know what people want me to do. They want me to talk about raping, pillaging, fighting, and all the rest of it, but we're not going to do that. We certainly don't need to do that, because that's not the story. What we want to do, what some people want me to do, is they want me to say that how blood-curdly some of these Roman soldiers were. But at the end of the day, these Roman soldiers were sons and husbands and, you know, lovers. These were normal men that just wanted to get through life, right? Most of them. There are a few bad eggs, but have we got any evidence of that? No. So, in conclusion, before we go on to Nansdallon Fort, rather than a heavily occupied province, Cornwall was a lightly supervised frontier where Roman influence was achieved with relatively little force. Roger's not going to like what I'm going to say. I don't believe that there was a massive fight or military presence in South Wales like most historians think, because most of the Roman military eventually left South Wales, and by about AD 110, there were very few military garrisons left in Wales. They'd all moved elsewhere. There was certainly none left in Cornwall, but that's another talk altogether. There's a reconstruction of Nansdallon Fort, or we think it looked like that somehow. Not really sure, but what we've got with the aerial view, it's sort of that sort of shape, maybe not precisely like that. Roman military brooch, maybe this was to do with a cloak, the Red Cloak, remember that film? Anyway, you know, a cloak, maybe a military officer. Roman coins found near Bodmin Moor. There we go, Bodmin Moor. Yeah, they are out there. So here we go, back to this again. A land of tin and tradition. The Romans came for the resources, the trade, and the security of the frontier. Cornwall kept much of its identity, but it was never entirely outside the Roman world. I think maybe I'm going to say something which is either fair or unfair, I'm not sure, but when we think about the surviving languages of Britain, we could think about the Cornish tongue surviving until the late 1700s, and they've tried to revive Cornish. Cymraeg has inevitably survived. We've got 750,000 people speaking Cymraeg in Cymru, Wales today. Cumbria probably had a dialect that lasted until very, very late, right from the place names and stuff. Cornwall is that example where the Romans didn't influence Cornwall as much as they may have, right? And that probably added to Cornwall's sense of independence and being separate from the rest of Britain. So then we're going to look at Nanstallen Fort. There it is there. And so it's not too far away from the M5. And oh no, the M5 don't go into Cornwall. It goes to Exeter. Anyway, forget that. There's a main road that leads north of Nanstallen, right? Unless somebody can correct me on that. Anyway, so here we go, Nanstallen, right? Really interesting. So we've got the Ordnance Survey there, and what we've got there is an outline of a fort. So if we go there, we've got the outline of a fort, right? Can you see that? They're loving it. But one thing that I felt was really interesting was like this depression here. I looked at that and I thought that's really interesting. That's where I thought the fort was actually. But there is the fort up there. Anyway, so, and I think I'm just going to, no, we're not going to do that one yet. Sorry, go back to this again. Interesting fort. So the fort at Nanstallen, up until not so many years ago, Exeter University hadn't found this fort, and they did in more recent times. So the fort at Nanstallen, the strongest evidence for a Roman military presence lies at Nanstallen, west of Bodmin Moor. The site was discovered through aerial photography before limited excavation confirmed it having military ditches of Roman era origin. The excavations revealed defensive banks, Roman pottery, and a military style layout. Now, of the first three, that's important: Roman military pottery, defensive banks, and ditches. I argue now that that the playing card form and shape is not necessarily always going to be indicative of a Roman fort, right? So whenever experts say playing card shape, it's square, it's definitely a Roman fort, that's not always true, right? Because there are other periods in time when square enclosures have existed for different purposes. So interesting enough, so if we go to, I think when it refers to that the site extended to about 5 acres, I think what we might be talking about is this whole area, right? Because it probably included other defensive works. I think there was a point made about that, and so the fort probably dates to around AD 55 and AD 80. It covered roughly 2 hectares, 6 acres. Although not enormous, it was unmistakably Roman from the archaeological evidence excavated. It appears to have housed an auxiliary unit and not legionaries. Back to the point I made earlier on, very important that these were not legionaries. So there's why Nanstallen. So if we go to that map again, and so there we go. So when you think about it, we haven't done Restormal yet. And why couldn't it have been sort of over by here, you know, where the cursor is, or sort of over by there? Nanstallen, why Nanstallen? So its position is interesting. Now, as I said, there is a road north of here. It's the A something, not the M5. I'm probably wrong on that, but anyway, whatever road is north of Nanstallen, somebody looked that up. Margaret would have already done that one. And but that would have, it's possibility that there follows the modern road, which is in essence the route of a prehistoric and Roman era routeway. From here, troops could move towards North Cornwall and then go through the valleys and the landscape to South Cornwall. They could access Bodmin Moor and the mining districts of the entire landscape. And the one thing I would say is that Bodmin Moor is excessively bleak today, but back then it would have been a lot more suitable for habitation. Hound of the Baskervilles, eat your heart out. But that was the other moor, wasn't it? Many archaeologists believe it acted as a temporary operational base rather than a permanent fortress. Occupation may have lasted only a few decades, so it might be that Nanstallen was the, oh, we'll build something there. It sounds a bit like Hard Knot in a way, but Hard Knot's a different kettle of fish. Well, the story of the Hard Knot, for example, in Cumbria is that it was used for a period of time, and then it was abandoned, and used for a period of time, then it was abandoned. But that was stone. This is probably just earth, timber, and not many stone, not stone used at all. But anyway, the point is it was probably occupied and then it was deserted, and they probably occupied it again for whatever reasons they needed to occupy it. So I just want to make one single point, one little point, and then what I'm thinking I'm going to do is look at some of the other images. So I'm going to speed up this a little bit now. So the other location is known as Restormwell. Restormwell, near Lost Withel. Now, if anyone knows anything about the history of the British Civil War, Lost Withel, there was the first Battle of Lost Withel and the second Battle of Lost Withel in the British Civil War, English Civil War, and they were two major victories of the Royalists, rare victories over the Parliamentarians. I thought I'd check that in there. And there's Lost Withel Castle. But anyway, back to Restormwell, back to the Roman period, and there's St. Astle. So, you know, there has been suggested there's a military site at Restormwell, but evidence is weaker than Nanstallen, but includes Roman finds and strategic positioning. Some archaeologists suggest temporary military activity rather than permanent occupation. They may have had a marching camp at Restormwell, but that's all we've got. We've got nothing more, nothing less, which is a bit of a shame there. So what we're going to do, we're going to probably mention the Roman roads a little bit, and then I'm thinking maybe about sort of about 12 minutes or so, we'll have a bit of a break. So Roman roads, one puzzle is the lack of Roman roads that we've mentioned, and we're repeating this. In most conquered regions, roads occupy forts, or are occupying with forts. They come along with forts. But as there's not many forts in Cornwall, there's not many roads. Makes sense. They usually say that if you've got a fort, you've got a road. If you've got a road, you've got a fort. In this case, you haven't got many forts, you haven't got many roads. That's the answer. Cornwall possess, but the University of Exeter say that some of the prehistoric routes Wales were obviously used by the Romans. Possible explanations include the roads could have been destroyed by later activities. There'd been a lot of tin mining in Cornwall. They could have destroyed it or covered them with slaggies. Who knows? Routes following prehistoric trackways, military occupation being relatively brief, movement mainly along rivers and valleys. So in other words, this is one point that I've made time and time again, that you could look at the Roman era in Britain more as moving things along waterways rather than moving things around roadways that we might see in other parts of the empire. The absence of roads suggests Cornwall was never heavily militarized, but there are roads on the Isle of Wight, but there wasn't a heavy military presence on the Isle of Wight, as we will find out after the break. So just have a quick look at this, and we'll mention Bodmin more. I'm going to go on to the other thing that might excite a few of us, and we'll come back to these notes before we have a break. So military finds scattered across Cornwall, as we mentioned, discovered brooches, coins, harness, fittings, weapon fragments, Roman era date. Individually, these prove little. Together, they suggest Roman soldiers travelled through much of Cornwall. Some may represent patrols. Others may belong to traders accompanying the army over short distances. The thing is, you've got to think practically, right? You've got to think practically. If you're going to move a small detachment of soldiers, you're going to use the river systems rather than march them across land. It takes longer to march across land, particularly over barren, bleak landscapes, which it wasn't exactly like that in Cornwall back then. You can imagine it's still quite hardy. Unless you've got a prehistoric road, it's going to be a lot more difficult. So using river traffic would have been a lot better. Bodmin Moor contains numerous prehistoric monuments. There has long been speculation that Roman patrols crossed the moor. Although no confirmed fort exists there, Roman artifacts occur around its edges. That's because that's where people have researched, not actually on Bodmin Moor itself. Bodmin Moor has been really under researched archaeologically wise, and the army probably knew the landscape well. And when you think about this, thinking about Bodmin Moor like this, but I just wanted to make one that actually looks typically Bodmin Moor, to be honest. But anyway, one thing that I'm going to say is that it's a bit like Dartmoor as well. One thing that we do have a lot in Cornwall is stones with markings on, Roman era markings, carvings on them, and we find them particularly near Tintagel. In Tintagel Church, there's a stone with a carving on it. There are stones with Roman sort of carvings on them and sort of Roman era stones. They may be associated with alignments where people use trackways and use these stones as markers, but that's the evidence that we've got. Now, what we're going to do, we're going to move on quickly. We've done Nan Stallon. This is interesting. One of the bits of the Nan Stallon site is they've excavated the foundations of a tower, right? And you can imagine by looking at the scale that the tower was probably about up to 4 meters wide and long. There's the scale there, about up to about 4 meters. There we go. Or just under that. And that's what they've excavated. And it so it was a wooden tower, not a stone tower. And it was basically an earthen bank, a sod bank. And what we then got inside that, you've got a gravelly road, and along the gravelly road, you've got a drain. So can I just make one comment? And I've made this before, that my sheepses have completely laid bare about 2/3 of our land, right? And the third of the land that we've got that we've put the sheep on, all the stuff is dying quite rapidly because there's been no rain, right? That's not going to take long to clear all that. And unlike most times, most of the year they can eat grass. They're going to have to be brought stuff in. That's how bad it is for farming at this minute. But if we use that as an example, if you've got sheep grazing a landscape quite extensively, you can then cut sods of earth. And those sods of earth will make a really nice, quick rampart. And that's what we're talking about. This is what we see, sods of earth bank. And then let's look at the tower. Oh, hang on a minute. There was an illustration of a tower, wasn't there? Right, there was an illustration of the tower, which I'll probably have to show you after, right? Because it's gone, but there is an illustration of a tower. But we'll forget about that for now. We'll come back to that. But this is really, really interesting. I like this illustration. Right, so tin mining in Cornwall by local people, Iron Age to Roman period. So I'm gonna take a punt, right? And you could think that some of these people would never have seen a Roman soldier or a Roman official in their lifetime, right? They just collected all this material together, and then it went via traders to be processed at a Roman trading site, and then that went into the Roman coffers. So long before and during the early Roman period, the people of Cornwall were skilled tin miners, and there's still some today. They worked the streams and hillsides of Bodmin Moor and West Cornwall using techniques passed down through generations, thousands of years. And then obviously it's quite a stretchy landscape, Bodmin Moor. And then you've got these big sort of coal fields, or ore fields, but there's a lot more than that. There's a lot more mining, and the mining for tin goes under the sea as well. So how it was done, stream work, gravel was gathered from streams and washed in wooden or wicker pans. Shallow digs, material was dug from hillsides and small pits using stone and antler tools. Deep shafts in richer areas, shafts were sunk and timber winches used to raise tin bearing earth. And maybe, you know, that illustration along there is, you know, slightly inaccurate because it's alongside the stream there, but I think that's just to show that we've got some deeper mining, not very deep mining, right? But Roger, do you want to do? We'll do a bit of titillation, Roger. Right, Roger. If you were Roger, if you were a tin miner, right, in the 1700s, right, Rog?
Yeah.
Are you there, Rog?
Yeah.
Right. If you're a tin,
I hear you. Yeah.
Roger, we're going to do a bit of titillation, Rog. Right. If you're a tin miner in the 1700s, right, you'd have a pasty, right, with a crimp around the outside, right, and the pasty would have a sweet and a savoury end, right, and the crimp around the outside is the bit that you'd hold with your dirty fingers, and you would chuck that down the mine shaft, and it would go to feed the knockers, and that's a fact. The knockers were little people that lived in mine shafts, and they've always lived in mine shafts, and the miners used to feed them the edges of their pasty. There's a throwaway fact. Anyway, crack on. So dressing the ore, the heavy black tin stones were separated from waste rock. Obviously there you go, and we've got antler pick, we've got a granite stone hammer, deep antler wedge, a wicker pan, and a stone basin. And there it is, a vital resource. Tin from Cornwall was traded across Britain and beyond. It was essential for making bronze for tools, weapons, ornaments, and everyday items. And there we go, bronze socketed axe made from Cornish tin. And what we've got here is this. So I thought share this with you. But what I'm going to do, I'm just going to double check. We'll do that. Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to see if I can find that other illustration. No, I'm gonna have to go for it after the break. Where are we? We'll have to go back to there. So we're going to keep this here, and then we'll go to that other illustration, and we'll have a break. There's something really special I want to show you in that. So here we go. So thinking about Cornwall again, and if we go back to that plan, there we go. Maybe all those little black cult things there where artifacts have been found, maybe some of those could be interpreted as being marching camps, but there's no evidence. This is difficult to prove. Marching camps could have been occupied for only a few nights. No banks and ditches dug during military expeditions. It confirmed they would suggest Roman columns crossed Cornwall rather than remaining in Devon, or likewise, or they went by water. We do not know. We don't really know what's going on because we haven't got the evidence. Did the Romans conquer Cornwall? Again, that question. This depends on what we mean by conquer. As I said, I've given loads of examples what conquering means. If conquest means permanent occupation with numerous forts, that didn't happen in Cornwall. If conquest means Roman authority was recognized, almost certainly yes. The local Dumnoni, the local people of Cornwall, appear to have cooperated with Rome rather than fighting prolonged campaigns. There is remarkably no evidence of any major warfare in Cornwall at all, even in the Iron Age. And it's likely the Cornish miners were quite good at trading with people. This is why they've traded with people for thousands of years until the Roman period. So finally, what happened after AD 100? By the AD 100s, military evidence disappeared not only in Cornwall, but across most of Cymru Wales, across most of southern England. Instead, what we do find in most areas is Roman villas, not many in Cornwall. Evidence of farmsteads, lots in Cornwall in this period, Iron Age Roman farmsteads and so on, ones that were just continuous. Imported Roman pottery, coins, evidence of trade. The army seems to have not stayed because this was a peaceful area, if they'd had much of a presence at all. Was Cornwall ever truly Roman? Now, that's a question. Should we be nice to Pete? We will. This remains debatable. Compared with Kent or Cornwall, Compared with Kent or Yorkshire, Cornwall retained much of its native identity. Tick. Native roundhouses continued. We've got lots of archaeological evidence way into the AD 200s, nothing changed. Local tradition survives tick. Roman influence arrived slowly and unevenly and not very widespread, unlike the Isle of Wight. Cornwall may represent one of the least Romanized parts of Britain, and that would include sort of Shetland, Orkney and Caithness in Scotland. So if we go on to here, I like this. Right, so should we have a little bit of a tin lesson, and then we'll call it a break. Right, so Cornish tin. So here we go, from ore to metal, Iron Age to Roman period. What is tin ore? There it is. It's showing. Tin occurs in Cornwall mainly as cassiterite. There's two types actually. A hard black mineral found in granite, rock, and in stream sediments. Cassiterite, tin ore. Cassiterite pieces. The main source of tin in Cornwall. And what we've got there, I mentioned lodes before. Tin ore was mined from lodes, veins in granite, and also collected from streams where it had been washed down the hill. What a lode is, it's basically a surface seam that you followed, and usually a lode would be about a foot wide. So you just followed it across the mountainside. That's what a lode is. And seeing as the soil levels were quite thin across lots of Cornwall, then you could follow it quite easy, right? So the process from ore to tin, mining the ore as you go, miners dug into the granite using stone, antler, and later iron tools to extract tin bearing rock. Crushing the rock. So you're crushing, sort of the granite, it's quite hard. So crushing the rock was broken into smaller pieces using hammerstones or handheld tools. Here we go. Next, washing and concentrating. Crushed rock was washed in water, either in stream beds or in wooden or wicker troughs. Trough bundles. The heavier tin ore sank to the bottom while lighter waste was washed away. So that's what you would typically do with gold, actually, when you're extracting gold and even copper. Drying the concentrated tin ore was dried in the sun or by the heat of a fire to prepare it for smelting. And there we go, smelting the ore. The dried ore was heated in a clay or stone furnace with charcoal. Tin melts at a relatively low temperature, about 232 degrees C, and separates from the waste rock. Collecting tin. Molten tin, being heavier, sank to the bottom of the furnace or collecting pit. It was skimmed or poured off into molds. And nearly finally, the finished product, the tin was cast into ingots or small bars, not sheep, bars, sorry. These were traded across Britain and beyond, used for bronze making and valuable metalwork. And finally, did you know Cornish tin was famous in the ancient world? It was traded with Greece, Cyprus, the Middle East, and across Europe for thousands of years before and during Roman times. And even until, it was really popular into the late 1800s, until they found much easily extracted tin. I think it was in South America, and the tin industry crashed for a while in Cornwall. So I think what we're going to do is, I've got a last bit to do before we head to the Isle of Wight, which will be after the break. And we'll keep this illustration. We've already shown you this. And I'll try and find the image of the tower, and we'll start off with that after the break. And my head's actually gone off on a tangent whilst I've been doing this, because I remember when I was in the Rhondda Valley a few years ago, I was looking at some really interesting things, really interesting structures. There seemed to be mills in the Rhondda Valley, and I was just thinking maybe they were used for some kind of mineral extraction. So if we go with this, and I've got to remind myself, because I've severely bruised my finger, I need to put my bandage back on. And I just tapped it on the desk and it hurts. So there we go, sympathy. So conclusion, the old idea that the Romans never entered Cornwall is now outdated. But King Arthur was there anyway, Judith. Instead, archaeology suggests a more subtle picture. The Roman army almost certainly entered Cornwall, established at least one confirmed fort at Llanstallon, probably conducted patrols across much of the peninsula. And obviously, the patrols would never have been attacked, and therefore, if they were never attacked, no, they wouldn't need to send any reinforcements in. So everybody's happy. These patrols were basically there to monitor trade, and I'll mention a little bit what that means in a moment. So probably conducted patrols across much of the peninsula, monitor trade and mineral resources, and then gradually withdrew once the region becomes stable. I need to raise that point that I need to raise in a few moments. Rather than heavily occupying the province, Cornwall was a lightly supervised frontier where Roman influence was exercised with relatively little force. So as I'm fiddling with my bandage, because my finger's in pain, I'm going to mention that this thing about ore and minerals and how Romans controlled, lead, silver, gold, all these things coming out of Roman era Britain. The way they did it was that they would leave somebody in charge of extraction, and then that person in charge of extraction would be told to make ingots. The ingots would have to be a certain weight. So by the time the ingots got to the Roman exchequer, they would weigh those ingots, and there would be a location mark on those ingots. And if it turned out that the ingots were not the weight that they were meant to be, then the person producing those ingots would be in very deep trouble. So it would be up to that person who produces the ingots to make sure that they were worth their weight in gold, even if they were tin. So by the way, there is gold in Cornwall, and there's copper in Cornwall, and there's also silver in Cornwall. Like, there's no iron in Cornwall, but it sounds like there's everything else. Oh, I think there's zinc in Cornwall as well. Anyway, so we're going to call that a break now, and I'm looking forward to the break. So here we go, and there. Right, so let's go over to questions. Roger, let's see if there's any questions from you, darling.
No, I'm fine, thanks. What I can hear.
Roger, we do love you lots. Right, okay then. Judith, what about you, babe?
Yeah, I didn't come in till quite late, so I've only caught the last little bit. But no, it's very interesting. I didn't know they were so busy in Cornwall. I didn't think there was so much there.
The thing is, Cornwall is one of those weird enigmas. It seems to come into history, and it seems to languish in the background. And it's a bit like the same thing that you could say about the legend of King Arthur, to be honest with you. But we don't talk about that, do we, Judith?
No, dangerous.
Yeah, it is dangerous. Right, okay. Oh, by the way, Judith, I've got your money for the rhubarb.
The barb rube, lovely, thank you.
But there is one problem with the rhubarb at this minute. What I'm trying to do is I'm going to wait for it to rain, so they sap up a little bit more moisture, and you can have some nice sort of succulent rhubarb, if you don't mind.
No, that's lovely.
Good. That's good. Anne likes a bit of a nibble of rhubarb. Okay, then, talking about nibbling, where's Drina?
I'm here.
Oh, there she is. Oh,
Shit. Didn't you read it, Gina?
Oh, God. So, Drina, tell us about the rhubarb experience.
It was delicious. And not so much sugar. It was very good.
Oh, right. Yeah. Do you know what I find? Do you know what you find? If you get some rhubarb and you put it in a bag of molasses, right, sugary molasses or whatever, then it absorbs. It gets rid of the bitterness, and you can like eat them like sweets. I did that myself. I had some bits of rhubarb. I chucked it in because Michelle gets this specially. She gets this organic raw cane. There we go. So I chucked it in a bag of this, and it basically absorbed it all. And it is like chewy sweets. So anyway, Gina, thanks for that. What about you, Anne?
Well, I was thinking about when you were saying they traded tin.
Yeah.
And one of those pictures, maybe it wasn't correct, but there was some soldiers standing over them. You were saying they probably had a light control. But what I wonder, usually when you've got somebody in control of something like that, the trade would hardly be fair unless it's usually that somebody is in control. They would be taking some of that tin rather than it being a fair trade. That's what I'm.
Okay. That Roman soldier standing now is a bit distracting because the person who put that together didn't understand that there weren't any Roman legionaries in Cornwall. That was a Roman legionary, so that's wrong. But I think to their defence, they would say that is an illustration of some kind of control, but it wasn't the normal mining that was being achieved in the Roman era. Mining had continued there for a long time. So
the Romans would normally have had slaves doing the mining in other places.
But these people were already in place, so they wouldn't even needed to use slaves. So that's why I grimaced. So the point is, I would say that it's a different mining process than anywhere else in Britain because it's already established. So why repair something that's not broken? And I think if I said that again, why repair something that's not broken? Then you don't need the military anyway. So
they did, but in terms of saying it was trade, if you've got somebody in authority, like when we went as our empire moved into, we took so much of the wealth of the people we supposedly conquered, and so I'm wondering how fair the Romans were in this. When you call it trade, would it be being really true trade? What were the people getting back for it? You know, there's change normally in trade, isn't there?
I would say the answer is that nothing's really changing, and it's more of a laissez-faire approach. And I would say the answer is quite clear, right? The answer is quite clear. You've got an Iron Age pre-Roman civilization in Cornwall. By the way, my finger, I'll explain that in a moment. You've got an Iron Age civilization that seems to come out the same as it went into the Roman era. So that must mean that not much had changed. Cornwall was one of those first kingdoms in Britain that managed to get itself together and organized as a kingdom before anything else happened in Britain. So that means that the established order had continued to add that sway. Because if you want to compare, for example, let's just do something quick, right? So you've got Cornwall, and you've got, say, the likes of East Anglia, right? So East Anglia is completely different in demographic, how it's organized by about AD 600, right? That's East Anglia. But by AD 600 in Cornwall, the people seem to have continued as they had been, right? Which tells me that nothing much had happened. In East Anglia, you've got massive changes. You've got the influence and changes occurring from people coming over from the continent. You've got diseases. You've got collapse in places like Camel and Dunham, Colchester. Whereas some of the most interesting evidence that we got for the supposed Dark Ages and early medieval period is actually from Cornwall. So that tells us everything, that Cornwall is a very different place than anywhere else. And that answers all your questions about mining and trade. That it's not a sort of slave economy. It's not a forced thing. And it's not a military-based mining. Lots of mining, for example, when you look at gold mining in West Wales, was done initially by the military and then put over to the civilians. Right? That didn't occur in Cornwall.
Right, thank you.
Right, thank you very much. So we've got we've done Drina. We've done Roger. We've only got Andy, and we'll have a break up until about 10 to 9. So, Andy, anything you want to say? And Roger's stripping off.
Yeah, I quickly had a look when you mentioned earlier on about the Tamar cutting off Cornwall. I hadn't realised how big a river it was either, and it does go right the way across.
Well, it does.
It kind of goes right in the north. There's a couple of little tiny lakes or ponds that I'm assuming is the source, and there's another one goes to the north onto the north coast. So it actually technically there's water all the way across.
So hang on a minute. I thought that was a myth. So
no, I just looked on the Wikipedia map and I thought, oh, I didn't realize that either. So it's really quite interesting. But
so in other words, you could sail from the North Sea in a tiny little brig.
Okay, I think it's probably a very small little stream at places, but yeah.
Okay, we'll do a coracle journey, love.
Yeah, you could do a coracle. Yeah, definitely could do a coracle. Yeah, there's a challenge, eh? Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, Pete's not with us. He was a sailor man, you know.
The Kurnow challenge. Yeah.
The Kurnow challenge. Yeah.
The other thing I was thinking about as well was that the roads even today are not great in Cornwall.
No.
So that hasn't changed in 2,000 years. So
no.
For obvious reasons that they've got a great coastline and everything's going out by sea. So. Yes. So there was no real reason for the Romans really to go in and build roads, was there? So just like we haven't really built many roads there, or certainly not widened any of them. And then Anne's comment about the Romans kind of were they, did they buy it or did they steal it? And I'm just thinking, there's a lot of cases in modern times of imperialism having to compensate or cases of compensation from the indigenous people. And I thought, I wonder if we could have a case against the Romans here.
Yeah. Oh my bloody God. Right, really? Oh, right, okay. I'm just looking at the road map for Cornwall, right? It's we're talking about the A39. And obviously you've got to go via Saltash, and you've got to go via Plymouth, and then you get to Exeter, and that's where the motorway ends. So there we go.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, on the finger, right? A few days ago, I was taking the goats out to one of the fields, right? And as I closed the gate, my finger got trapped in the gate, and it smashed between. And I didn't have kick the goats and scream and no, the goats weren't there for me to kick, to be honest with you. They had realized that something had gone wrong, so the goats were already halfway across the field by the time I started shouting and screaming at them. But that's how this happened, so there we go.
Dangers of farming.
Say that again.
The dangers of farming.
The danger of farming.
The hazards of farming, perhaps.
Can I just make a comment, right? That this is a known fact, right? That as soon as people were calling for people to work down, the iron and then the coal mines in South Wales, lots of farmers' hands were going into the coal mines because it was far safer to work down the coal mines. Honestly, seriously enough. Like, it was far safer to work down coal mines than it was to work on the land, because you're talking about 1750. They had equipment that could just lop half your body off. You could lose fingers just like that. Coal mining, you just lose your life and you're dead. You're flattened. But, that's that.
Unless you get that, the soot in your lungs. That's not so good. I forgot what it's called.
Yeah, but I don't think they realise that. Like, oh my God! Can you imagine? Right, I've got this reoccurring dream of going underground and not being able to get out again. So this is why I don't go underground much. But I'll tell you another story about that in a moment. But we'll talk about the underground thing in a moment. But basically, there are tin seams going underneath the Atlantic Sea, which go on for miles, right? So can you imagine, right, being about 300 meters underground and then a mile and a half under the sea, right? No way, absolutely no way. Forget that. No way. I'm out of there. No way. Absolutely no way. I would start running back. I really would. I would need a torch. I'd be right out of there. There's just no way. And oh god, oh yeah, years ago, right? Here's a story. We've got to bring Claire in again, Andy. We've got to bring her in, right? This is the second time Claire's been mentioned. Judith, Claire was seen at Fishbourne Roman Palace with a bloke, right? And anyway, what it was, I was meant to be doing Come Dine With Me, right? And I'd been chosen to do actually Celebrity Come Dine With Me. This was years ago, right? And I decided not to do it at the last minute. And they said, that's a shame because you would have been brilliant, right? And they said, if you ever come up with a good TV idea, then that would be brilliant. So I did. And it was looking at underground archaeology in Britain, right? So I put together a script, right? And the guy who was pitching the script, right, went to see one producer, and the producer said, we're not interested in this. And lo and behold, a year later, a script was written and it went on television. And Claire was supposed to be doing that with me. She was going to be my assistant underground. On that note, we're taking a break. Oh, by the way, should I mention this, Andy, about a certain Anderson shelter sealed on some land that Claire knows about? It's never been opened. You'll have to ask her about that, Andy.
Yeah, I don't know. I've got some vague memory about that, but it's probably on a brother's land, which means it'd be a no-go area.
So. Oh no, this was a mate's land in the south, I think.
Oh, okay, that'd be interesting. I will ask her. Yeah,
ask her again. She said she was going to go down it one day. I never heard the last of it. Yeah. Anyway, that's when I had a falling out with a mate of Claire's, and then we don't want to go there. Yeah, we'll have a break. Andy, don't go there. Right. We'll have a break until 5 to 9, and we'll be back then. See you in a minute.
Yeah.
expression which suggests there's more in the quick. Hello. How are you? Where's the side piece? Yeah. Hey, doggy going quickly. That's the 30 weeks of that. Anyway. Graham and Kate seem quite as masters of their home, and keeping at ease with its stellar character and nostalgia, but what they've done here is now. Yeah, that's great. And it's on the other side as well, look. I like that. I like that large. This is probably worth the admission fee. As you will see, these spaces are generous, theatrical, a flawless contribution. It looks will mix old and new, but good. Cool. So that's what great. And in true theatrical style, there has to be a show. Provided here, not by 5 doors, but the window. And this is engineering. I do like sculptures by the side. They're very yeah. Yeah, that question, but yeah. I don't know what's to say. What you do? This one. Yeah. That's it. There you go. Amazing. Well, yeah. You put your finger on the button, and we'll come back later. I want to hear the principal over there. Oh. Yeah. Kate's opinion of concrete has, of course, changed. Like you didn't material itself. I think this is not exactly correct to know it, but it's done a kind of it's better than what it is. I thought it's just not shape. That has to be a good attractive policy, you know. Well, then it's just about the conversation. Probably about that. Which reminds me of the somewhat lavish forward-march Colton I saw at the National Theatre. Because in the same way, it's much more luxurious, softer materials. Actually, using luxurious yeah. Stand in that. There you go. That. Like good Lord. First thing that's about that, Kevin. Come on. Dear man, come on. I'll tell you when I'm impressed. I'll tell you when I'm impressed. I'm impressed now. Now that it's horizontal. It's something removed and off a brilliant thing. Against all the odds, Wayne, Richard, and the joiners together made this hydraulic wonder. Sometimes that thing extra.
Did you have some blood taken today, Nick, Roger?
Sorry, was that?
So did you have blood taken today? I saw you'd got a little bit of cotton wool in your elbow.
No, it's blood taking.
Blood taking.
Bloods.
Yeah, I did the same. I've got one the same. I didn't go to the same doctor, but I recognise it because I had mine done today as well.
Yeah, the
review when you've got to look at your bloods and the things.
I tried the left, it didn't work, so I went to the right.
All right. Well, I was lucky it worked first time.
I've already had it done earlier on, but they've asked me again. So whether it's intentional or mix-up, I don't know. So I had a urine test. That's in this week before 11 o'clock. Tramping around there, it takes a while to get around there.
I know.
But
it looked like where we were. It seemed like everybody there we had queues of people for these. I've noticed it like that before, but they must have been getting a whole lot done on the same day. Had a lot of nurses in doing it.
I'd had checks and a review and all this with age and everything, and they're checking on the kidney function and diabetes, watching for that.
Yeah.
So just as well, I'm having extra tests in case. Although I've watched my diet now to lose some weight, take it down, get too high, which I'm doing. Getting it. But we'll see what happens now, because I take an extra tablet for the it's kidney function.
Oh dear. Yeah.
You know, so I think fine, that's healthy. You know, I'm onto it.
Yeah.
Some people, you know, they don't bother, or I can do it, and no, rubbish. You need help, and unless you get a test, you don't know what's happening.
That's right. It's true.
Unless you collapse.
Yeah.
So that's what all that is. But it's always the same. Stringing the
When
left side.
When I went to the doctors, when there were so many of us, I wondered if they're doing everybody's review at the same time, because there were so many of us there. Just gone to have blood tests.
But just part of the game now with things. I think okay, you know. But I had a review February, March, and they asked for bloods twice, as if they mixed up or something.
Oh dear.
Twice.
Yeah.
ECG. Then they asked me again, and I said I just had it all done. Now 2 months on, so they want another blood test. But
Oh,
I don't mind that.
Eye on you then, so that's good, isn't it?
Diabetes.
Yeah. Have you got diabetes? Or they're just they're looking for
it. Could be, I think, they're not careful of the build-up. So to the kidney function, they gave me this extra tablet. And looking it up, the tablet is used to treat diabetes too. So I'll see what it says now. And one way to help is take off some weight.
The easiest way to get that weight off is to lower your carbohydrates.
So that's bread,
pasta, rice. Reduce it. You don't have to give it up, but if you reduce it, it reduces your insulin resistance, and that'll cut your weight off.
Right. Okay.
I did it. I didn't have anything like that, but I've got 2 eye diseases I was bothered about and wondered what I could do. And I found it was to do with insulin resistance. Anyway, I went on this low carb diet and I dropped 3 stone. I'm now my blood pressure's perfect, and I'm thin, and you know, but it was just by eating less. I didn't give them up, but I ate a lot less carbs.
Yes, I dropped bread at breakfast and stuff like that more. I'm eating more fruit without bread and butter with it.
Yeah,
so
butter won't hurt you.
I like rice.
Butter won't hurt you, but butter won't hurt you because fats are all right. Although the medical people are saying they're not. I've been reading several books, and as I say, the fat won't harm you, but carbs will. So don't worry about the fat. I mean, you give it up if you want to, but it won't harm you at all.
Yeah, but just eat sensibly, you know, like too much chocolate and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely right. Give up the sugar and all of that. If you're doing it right, you're doing it right.
On the way, I like rice though, but it's not every day. And chips, well, it's all carbohydrates.
You can have rice as long as it's brown, because it's not refined. It's the refined stuff you should stay off. If you're having brown rice, it'd be okay. I'm not saying all the time, but it would be okay.
And limiting the quantity. Like breakfast, I've used this Alpen without the sugar, or shredded wheat, stuff like that. You know, with some milk, semi-milk, and no other bread. You know, bread and marmalade and all this. cutting that out, which I used to do regularly. And what I used to do in the afternoons is have something on toast.
Yeah, yeah.
Drop that, don't have anything, bits, liquid, yes. And tea time, 7 o'clock or so, 6. Then have a variety of meals, some with too many chips, and some meat, a lot of chicken, and sometimes just pasta and a sauce. You know, limited keeping.
And are you feeling much better on this diet? Are you feeling much better on this diet?
Not particularly different, but I'm sensing a weight loss, if you see
That's
what I
good.
mean.
That's good. If you keep the weight going down.
It's lessened somewhere. I don't know. You know, with trousers, you can, you know, I got bigger sizes, but I can judge it on that as well.
Mm-hmm.
So there we are. It's, you say, it's keeping to it, and like all of us, you'd have to stick to it then.
Yeah, that's right. You do.
You know, it's something that came up with this review before. Now we got another one just to check on it. I don't mind that. A lot of men don't bother because they think they're macho and they don't need to. Rubbish.
Roger, you're macho.
You know, to get it along the way. I hope Carl does. He thinks he's devoid of any infections and stuff like COVID, and he didn't have that. Didn't have this.
No, I didn't.
But there we are. It's up to you, son.
Well, no, I did catch COVID 4 times, but the thing is, it didn't. It didn't. Well, I've still got no sense of smell.
Ah. Well, I had COVID. It didn't bother me. It was one of those I was expecting worse than it was. So
yeah,
it wasn't a bad do.
Difficult one.
But I've not.
Some people
not
react to the injections. You know, the actual needle and all this.
Right.
But no, I still get on with it all and do what I can.
Yeah.
Rest when I can.
Roger, you're a legend.
Do it. But
Roger, the legend.
I've had treatment for the eyes. That's kept that going. Hearing now is a bit down, but a lot better than others at my age. But I'll get a hearing aid, so sometimes you lose certain registers and certain amount in a crowd.
I find with hearing, because I have to wear hearing aids, and it's not so much volume. It's when there's several noises you can't get the one you want. That's usual, I think. That you can't listen to a particular say person talking when there's a lot of other clatter going on in the room. I still find that more difficult.
They all say that, or friends. But I'll see what I can do with it by the hospital.
Yeah.
Guys, have you ever experienced this, right? I was going down the hill yesterday, right? And there was this vehicle coming towards me. Right?
I can't hear it so well. Your mic's down, something. You hear that, and I can't hear you much. Which is
Andy,
not bad.
Andy, can you hear me loud and clear?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
What it is, through the reload of Zoom, I need to put the volume back on my monitor from the laptop. My son does that. I don't quite know how you can select it, but it was on the laptop monitor. I got a 24-inch monitor.
Roger, sizes and everything.
It's gone quieter, so I'll get him to look at it tomorrow.
Yeah, we can hear you, Rog, loud and clear.
Yeah,
I've got the volume turned up on the thing, but no, I've had this before. I don't know what it is. You can have a look at it.
Roger, you're looking much better. I wanted to say, right, I was driving down the hill yesterday, right, and there was these people, 2 people in a vehicle coming towards me, right, and I could see both of their faces as clear as anything, right, but I didn't think they had a trailer on, but they did, and I wasn't going to give for them, but anyway, I decided to back up, right, and then the 2 of them got out their vehicle, and I just thought, I didn't know it was you, right? So there's these 2 people who I've known for 3 years, right? I just didn't know it was them, even though I could see them.
Sometimes though, if you see somebody in a place where you're not used to seeing, like if you meet somebody who's a shopkeeper or something that you meet regularly, and you meet them somewhere else, you can't recognise who they are. It's because
forget
they're in the wrong place. Sometimes, doesn't it?
I tell you what. Well, there's nothing wrong then. But anyway, let's crack on. And I'm just I'm going to see where I'm going to go with this, and I don't want to be on too late now because it is still quite hot here. And you know what? I cannot wait for it to rain. Michelle said, oh, we've got this for another like 10 days. And she said, I hope it's not going to be raining. Right. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes.
Right. She said, I hope it's not going to be raining when I'm off. And I said, I hope it's raining when you're off because I love the rain. Anyway. Right. So what it is, we had a question from last week, and the question was about the Isle of Wight. And I did make a little mistake where I should have done a little bit more research. And I just hang on a minute. I just gotta check something out a minute. Hang on a minute. All right, there we go. I did it. Right, okay, not a problem. Anyway, back to where I've lost myself. So last week we're looking at the Isle of Wight, and I basically said, right, approximately where number 3 is marked on the maps, there's a red square, right, and that indicates there's a Roman fort there, right? So I took that as red, but that's not true at all. And just quickly at the top of this, there's not a single piece of archaeological evidence to say that there's a single military fort on the Isle of Wight at all, which makes this really, really interesting. So we've already looked at Brading, Roman villa. I do know that Fraggle has been to Newport. And so I just want to basically Roman military forts. The short answer is that no confirmed Roman military forts have been found on the Isle of Wight at all. They used to think that there was, but now we think that there isn't, right? And the believed Roman fort is believed to be roughly around where number 4 is, Carisbrooke. This surprises many people because we know from the Roman writer Suetonius that Vespasian captured the island known as Victus during the conquest of Britain in AD 43. Now, the point is with this, if Suetonius is completely and utterly wrong about a Roman military presence on the Isle of Wight, how much more of this written history is wrong, right? And if Suetonius is right and is still no evidence of a Roman fort on the Isle of Wight, that tells us something else. But the idea of the Romans conquering somewhere is not necessarily indicative of building a fort there. So that's a really, really important point. The archaeological evidence suggests no permanent auxiliary fort like those at Richborough, Exeter, or Cardiff. No, that's auxiliary forts like the one in Cornwall that we've just looked at. There's no leisurely fortress on the Isle of Wight, which would be associated with Vespasian, General Vespasian. That doesn't exist. There are villas, but there's no established Roman town on the Isle of Wight, which started off as a military base. So what you usually find, like Killeen, you would find a military base there, and then a fort. It would develop into a town. And therefore it would be like a future Roman town, a bit like Eberacum, York. Eberacum, York started off as a military base for the 9th Hispanic Legion, and then it turned out to be a Roman city that eventually became the heart of the Roman Empire for a very short time as well. We don't have any of that on the Isle of Wight. We just have these villas that seemingly started off in the main as native settlements like Brading. So the island seems to have become peaceful quite quickly after brackets conquest, and was dominated by wealthy farming estates rather than garrisons. So in other words, the idea of Rome was enshrined by the villas themselves. The villas became the mouthpiece of the Roman Empire, little chess pieces in the game of Roman conquest. So if we think about this, and I do believe St. Catherine's Point is that little thing sticking out on the left-hand side. I could be wrong there, but my notes tell me that St. Catherine's Point, they found some Roman building material, including a stamped tile that has led some archaeologists to suggest that there's a signal station there, a lookout post, or even a small military lighthouse. None of this has yet been proved. So in other words, we've got some evidence, but it's not military evidence. It's Roman occupational evidence that could actually date from much later. So we've got nothing from Vespasian at all. Now, Carisbrooke is really, really interesting. The archaeological evidence from Carisbrooke, for example. So it's basically going as follows. Carisbrooke Castle, which is the Roman villa of Carisbrooke. Older books sometimes suggest a Roman fort lay beneath the castle, hence why that red blotch on the map from the other week. Modern excavations have shown this is not the case. The earliest occupation is Saxon, not Roman, at Carisbrooke Castle. And obviously you've got the Carisbrooke Roman villa, but that's not military either. Now, this is a very interesting point as well. The Isle of Wight is very odd on lots of levels. If we move this the question a bit further backwards, Iron Age hill forts. My research. So again, the Isle of Wight is rather different from the rest of Britain. Have you ever met anyone from the Isle of Wight? They are very strange people indeed. Chillerton Down. There might be at Chillerton Down on the Isle of Wight, like something that might be a hill fort, right? There's a rampart and a ditch there, but how much of this is actually a proper type of bank and ditched enclosure hill fort on the Isle of Wight, we don't know. Another one that might come into vein as well on the Isle of Wight, somewhere called Yaverland. Some archaeologists have suggested that there's another possible hill fort on the Isle of Wight, but it might just be an Iron Age enclosure. So two sites that might be Iron Age bank and ditch enclosures might not be. So there's another place that's known as Castle Hill. There's an earthwork there that might be an enclosed Iron Age settlement, but that doesn't make a hill fort. So when you look at the Isle of Wight, it's seemingly throughout history, from the Iron Age into the Roman era, that nobody needs to build any of these things like bank and ditch enclosures or Roman forts. And even if they did, there's not much in the way of them. Now, why so few evidences of military evidence on the Isle of Wight? One theory is that once Vespasian had conquered the island, the local population offered little to no resistance, as they did across big swathes of Britain. Roman authority was quickly established. Wealthy British leaders replaced their sites. Oh no, that's Fishbourne. Anyway, you get an idea. If that was Brading, right, it would evolve into a villa like this thing, which is Brading. So anyway, going back to what I was saying. So this is reflected by the remarkable number of villas on the island. So when you think about the Isle of Wight, if we go back to that plan, there are a number of villas that we're aware of. There's probably a lot more road into the sea. Brading on number one. We've got Newport, which is obviously where Judith visited. Carisbrooke was a big one. And Rock Villa's apparently pretty big as well. And so these are part of a rich farming agricultural landscape. So when we think about all of this, and I hadn't had planned much to look in great detail about this. There's Brading and that area there. This been upgraded, that building there at Brading, since it's a lot more posher. So a nice concluding point about forts on the Isle of Wight is, unlike Dorset and Hampshire, where Roman forts and Iron Age hill forts dominate the landscape, the Isle of Wight appears to have moved rapidly from conquest to agriculture. The archaeology is therefore a story of prosperous Roman farms, Roman era farms, and villas rather than marching camps and military frontiers. So very different. And I think that when we look again at this weird sort of story to do with villas and military sites, we'll look at a place known as Chillerton Down, but that's for another week. But that isn't on the Isle of Wight. So what I want us to do now is, do you know what? I'm just going to just do a fact check, right? I want to do a fact check. There's one thing I rushed this through when I did my research. St. Catherine's Point. Andy, can you look up St. Catherine's Point? Is St. Catherine's Point that point that stretches on the west end of the island? Because I don't think it's on that end. And if that's the point that they were talking about, there's been some Roman military evidence. I just need you to fact check that for me, if one of you could, if that's St. Catherine's Point. Anyway, feel free to jump that in, and that would inevitably be St. Catherine's Point. I wouldn't like to be there on a stormy day. It's interesting, isn't it, where the whole thing stretches out in the distance. Right, okay, so I wanted us to, before, we've only got 2 more images left, but probably do about 10-15 minutes on that. This is that tower that I couldn't find earlier on. This is that tower that I mentioned for the Roman fort on in Cornwall. And the site that we're talking about is in fact Nant Stallon. And the tower that we just seen is in fact this thing here, which is four and a bit, or four under meters sort of square, and that would then look, there would be 4 of those looking out over the landscape, right? And I have not really sure what this thing is meant to be here, but I think that's a mistake. But so these towers, and that would have been a timber tower, and that's what they're talking about. So what I want us to do is I want us to look at where were we. Oh, hang on a minute. I've lost where we are.
The green caravan.
Oh, Roger, have you you've obviously, hang on a minute. You've seen the caravan, yeah. Oh, I've moved it since, Rog, and I pumped up the tire.
You changed it inside.
Yeah, I'm not in the caravan now.
I know, but that's for the diggers. But you changed the inside, didn't you?
Yeah, what I'll do, oh, it was really good, Roger. We've gone off on a tangent. I managed to find a lock on the internet, right? So original ones are like 150 quid. So I thought, right. So I found a lock on the internet for modern caravans, and I had to do some sort of filing down of the plastic and stuff, but I managed to get it fit, and I've got a locking mechanism. So I've learned something, and what I'm going to do next week, I'll teach from inside the caravan next week, right? And obviously anyone coming to West Wales want to help on the excavation, they've got the caravan. And so what I'm going to, in the meantime, whilst I'm going to be using the caravan for these classes and sort of an archaeological work as well. So as I say, next week we'll be surrounded by artifacts. So I thought I'd mention that. So anyway, thanks for mentioning that, Roger. So what we're going to do, and there's not much of a breeze yet, but there should be. And we've got to feed the little lamb after this as well. She's going to want to be fed. So the last thing is that I wanted to I wanted to sort of do a little bit of a comparison, and I wanted to complete that talk that we had on Fishbourne, because when we had that talk on Fishbourne, I'd sort of got to more or less to the end, and I just didn't complete it. So when we're looking at these reconstructions, I think they're really, really nice reconstructions. So when we think about this, is that, one second, this reconstruction is based on the archaeology rather than imagination. So the one above. So what we've got at Fishbourne is that small high status settlement before AD 43, roundhouses, storage buildings, enclosures, trade links across the channel, overlooking Chichester Harbour. And we'll give you an idea how close this site is. It's not far away, right? So you can imagine, you know, the Fishbourne Palace as it would become massive, right? And probably a little bit of a bridge over to Novamegas, Chichester. Really good images, these. And so if we get back to my notes again. So excavations have revealed in regards to the Iron Age stuff at Fishbourne. Late Iron Age occupation, including ditches, imported pottery, you know, amphora and stuff from the Roman world. So these people were fitted in, linked to the Roman world before AD 43, as we mentioned. Food waste and a copper alloy scabbard fitting, suggesting a high status settlement that was already involved in trade with the Roman world. And further, this is the thing. This is a point when archaeologists talk about trading with the Roman world, you're not just talking about the trading with the Roman world. You're talking about the African world. You might have some traders coming in from the Scandinavian world and the Germanic world. Well, definitely the Germanic world with Chichester, because it's not too far away, and other places in the Mediterranean. So it's not all about the Roman world that these people are trading with. Very interesting. So the obviously telltale Iron Age evidence, there would have been roundhouses, but there would have been some square and rectangular buildings as well before AD 43. It's not the Romans didn't have the have the copybook on rectangular and square buildings. They're already happening in Caliva Atropatum, for example, and some evidence from Fishbourne. So the other illustration, and then we'll go back to my notes and then we'll call it a day. Okay, guys? So Fishbourne, so early phase of the Roman palace, not as big, not as grand. The monochrome mosaics, you've got white and black mosaics rather than the polychrome as they did become, the ones that Claire would have been seeing. So again, substantial masonry building. Now things have moved from wattle and daub and mainly timber and daub to stone and brick. Painted walls and tiled foot roofs, courtyards and garden areas, elite residence before the great palace was built. Can I just let your mind think about something else a minute? It's just occurred to me. I'll do this in a minute. Something's just bounced into my head. I've got to do it now. So just think, if in the 1960s Fishbourne Roman Palace hadn't been found and it was just nobody bothered looking, right, because they didn't know anything was there, right, it wouldn't look, the landscape wouldn't look like this. And don't say, oh yeah, that's bloody obvious, right? But our interpretation of the archaeology and the history would be very, very different. It's these freak archaeological finds that change the copybook, right? It changes our understanding and how we navigate history and archaeology. So it's by these one or two little finds. Now, I'm going to say something that would put a smile on your faces, and when I think about it, you know, where we are in West Wales, I've told you about this before. We had two people coming onto the property. My alarm system went off, and then I challenged them, and they said, we believe that King Arthur's buried here because of the name of this place in West Wales. And they said, we've done all the research and it's saying that King Arthur was buried at this very locality where I'm talking to you from now, right? And I just thought, how ridiculous. And then the other one said, Jesus is also buried here as well. And at that moment, I thought, right, is this some kind of a prank? But they were deadly serious. But anyway, the point is that even though none of that's true, or none of it can conceivably be true, right? It starts to make you think that only by looking at the landscape can things change and people's understanding move, like this palace moved the goalposts. So let's look at that illustration. Let's get the other illustration up. Look at my notes and we'll call it a night. So by about AD 100, the transformation was astonishing. Or is it astonishing? because this is, as I mentioned when we did Fishbourne, this is 57 years later. This is several generations. You know, if this was done slowly, then the transformation isn't as astonishing. It would be astonishing if you move from AD 43 to AD 100 in a year. Yeah, but you know, so the humble Iron Age settlement, is it humble? But the humble Iron Age settlement had become one of the greatest residences in the Roman Empire from about AD 100 to about AD 200. It would really develop again. You know, that's the point. This is where things are going, and so with the wings and things as it's developing into the Fishbourne, that the archaeology that you see today, all of these sort of this immense form, these wings running out from a central hub, you know, or colonnaded walkways, reception halls as it's developing, bath suites as it's developing, mosaic floors already here, ornamental planting already happening. The palace covering about 2.3 hectares, which is an astonishing area, which is, you know, bigger than the area of that Roman fort that we mentioned in Cornwall, and probably served as a residence, as we know initially, for Cogodumnus. So again, if we go to the other illustration, and I love color illustrations like this, and you know, if I ever came into any money, I might be interested in getting a very amazing artist on board to do something very special in the way of an archaeological magazine that would be out on a regular basis. But that's something else, which I'll talk about another day. So let's just finish off where we were talking about Fishbourne, right? It feels like ages ago that we did the talk on Fishbourne, but where we got with the talk on Fishbourne, I'm just gonna try and remember where we got with the Fishbourne. Right, so here we go. I think we got to Fishbourne and Rome, I think. So one of the most striking aspects is how Roman the palace feels, or would become. The architecture closely resembles high status residences in Italy. This is in Britain, but remember the temperature is 1.5 to 2 degrees higher than it is today. Do you imagine having a hot spell and having 2 degrees higher than we are now? No. The architecture closely resembles high status landscapes as well. And the owner clearly wished visitors to think, I belong to the Roman world. Wherever you see something like this, you are in the Roman world. It's meant to be a little miniature Rome. Wherever you see Fishbourne, Roman palace is meant to be Rome within Rome. This is Rome, right? Fishbourne, therefore, represents Romanization in action, not force chosen at least by the local elite. Now, I don't really like that word that Anne swore at me earlier on, slavery. Sorry, Anne. I don't like the word slavery because the word slavery in the modern sense has a different meaning than it did in a Roman sense. And were you there on that lecture that we had, slaves who own slaves who own slaves? Were you there that day?
Yes.
And slaves actually.
I do know it's different because they would educate some slaves and they would put them into quite important positions.
Yes.
But I don't know that happened. But at the same time, usually the rotten jobs like mining, which would be pretty awful, would be the sort of things they gave to slaves, wouldn't it? That would have been the lower end of the slave thing rather than, you know, I just imagine that they would. I can't imagine that they wouldn't.
I really struggle with the slave thing. I really do. I struggle with the slave discussion because it's not for tonight, Anne, because that's another. We're not going to get into much of a discussion about this, but my answer is that slave workforces don't really work because, one, we've now found out that Khufu's Great Pyramid took 25 years. No slaves built it. We know that as a fact now. So, but that would have been the slave. That would have been. could never have been built by slaves, but nobody questioned it. But now it's a fact that people did it in the service of the pharaoh because they gave up.
That's right, and yes, it was very different than mining, wasn't it? Really?
Yeah. But the other thing as well is, we'll go off this a moment, but when you think about, for example, the Stott organization that was set up by the Nazis in the Second World War, it was not effective. There's lots of historians saying that if the Germans did not use slave labor workforces in the Second World War, they would have been far more successful, because slave labor hindered what the Germans were trying to do. If slave labor wasn't used in the V1 and the V2 rocket program, we'd have probably had the deaths of another 100,000 people in London. It's lots of these rockets exploded on the ground because they'd been urinated on by the slave labor workforce. So you don't get the best out of things. So back at you, and I just wanted to say that maybe the concept of slavery was then very different, and not in the concepts that some people readily think today. That's my point anyway. But I'm sure maybe, and if you asked me nicely, we could do slavery in Roman era Britain.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm always interested in any kind of social stuff.
All right then.
Technology and social, those are the two areas I'm most interested in.
1 week is bloody rhubarb and the next week is slavery.
I've got a parcel just arrived. I'm dying to open it because I think it might be my spindle.
Oh, for you,
I'm going to open this parcel.
hang on. Therefore, you've got to order some wool, right? Okay, then. Right, okay. I'm not going to use the words, but sometimes you're taking the proverbial, because you can only have one need a week, right? 1 week is rhubarb, right? This week is slavery. You're gonna have to order the wool next week, okay? Thank you. It's too much. You never hear Andy asking for anything. There you go. And bloody hell, I tell you what, right? Judith had the cheek to order 2 more lots of blooming rhubarb.
No. Good. Anyway, I'm sort of looking at things again.
Hang on,
I managed to do. I made it into a crumble with no sugar in the rhubarb, no sugar in the custard, but put some sugar into very low flour crumble. So, and there wasn't a lot of sugar in it, but they all ate it and said it was, well, they could have been telling lies, but I liked it.
Gina never tells lies. But can I just make one comment, because we've got to crack on, love, right? I'm going to make one comment. I only sent you 10 sticks of bloody rhubarb. Did I?
That's right, you did. Yeah, I think it was 10 or 12. It was something like that, whatever.
It's almost as if...
No, it must have been, I think, yeah. Anyway, I'd used 3 for myself, and then I used the other lot. I had 2 visitors come, and we ate it between us.
Yeah, are you sure your nickname ain't Jesus or something? Right, okay. Yeah, if you worked that one out, right. Anyway, right, everybody stop talking, Drina. Thank you. So, okay, yeah, it's usually Margaret I pick on. It's just a shame she's not here, right? Anyway, right, so destruction, right? We'll just keep this image because, I like these images. So the palace flourished for roughly 2 centuries. So you're talking way into like about the 280s or something like that. Disaster struck around the 280s. A major fire devastated much of the complex. Whether caused by accident, neglect, or raiders remains uncertain. The building was never fully restored, but it did actually continue in use, but it no longer took the marker as one of the great residences of Roman era Britain. But again, folks, right? If this was not found in the 60s, we wouldn't be even talking about this. We'd be talking about Woodchester, which would have been the great Roman palace, right? Anyway, so after Rome, following destruction, the palace gradually decayed. Stone was robbed, walls collapsed, earth covered the remains. Eventually, the site disappeared beneath fields for more than 1,500 years before the palace slept underground. It just slept, just quietly sleeping. It would completely disappeared, and it just slept under the turfs, right? And then under the turfs, in the 1960s rediscovery. The story of discovery is almost as remarkable as the palace itself. I got to be honest with you, right? Roger knows this. There's a train station at Fishbourne, right? Amazing. There is. So in other words, they built the train station at Fishbourne before the palace was built. No, I'm starting again. They built the. I'm sure that they built the train station at Fishbourne before they actually found the palace. I'm not sure that. You can fact check that one. Anyway, so in the 1960s, engineers digging a water main trench uncovered Roman remains. This accidental discovery triggered major excavations. Sometimes archaeology begins with careful planning. Sometimes it begins with a shovel in the wrong place. And this is exactly how Pompeii and Herculaneum were found. But they would have been found because some historian would have been looking around. I've got some good images from Herculaneum probably to show you next week. So the great archaeologist Barry Cunliffe, who was occasionally on Time Team, over several seasons, his team revealed one of the most important Roman sites ever found in Britain, ever. Barry Cunliffe's work, much of what we know about Fishbourne would remain hidden underground. If they hadn't found it in the 1960s, it wasn't for his work. For metallurgists, Fishbourne was the excavation that transformed Roman archaeology in Britain, because basically it sort of interplayed the Iron Age and the Roman era together, right? So let's just only 2 more bits now, and then we're going to call it a night, really. But we need to look at what it says on these captions here. So, but before we do this, why Fishbourne matters, we've got to do that. So look at the captions there. Fishbourne in Chichester in the Roman era. Fishbourne Roman Palace stood on the north shore of Chichester Harbour. It's going to become bigger. It's going to become grander. The harbour provided sheltered waters for shipping and trade with Gaul around the Roman world, and had done for quite some time, maybe hundreds of years. Sheltered harbour for trade and travel, palace and gardens overlooked the water, close connection between elite residents and tribal capital, easy access to the Channel and Gaul. And there's Nova Megas, Roman capital of the Regnantis people. And you're looking at lots of boggy, marshy landscapes, but well-organized landscapes, okay? Organized fields, cultivated fields, and perfect. Whether that roadway went across there, we don't know. We really don't know if that existed. So finally, guys, why Fishbourne matters. Fishbourne overturns several myths. Myth 1. Here we go. I think some of you have mentioned this. Roman Britain was poor. Fishbourne provides extraordinary wealth existed. So the myth that we had in school that people wandered around in togas is completely wrong. Myth 2. Roman Britain was purely military. Fishbourne shows luxury, politics, and culture in the Isle of Wight and Cornwall. So, you know, Britain was not purely military, not much in the way of military in Cornwall. So it was about more than just that. The Isle of Wight, we got that in this one. So myth 3, the conquest instantly destroyed native elites. No, Fishbourne suggests lots of local leaders prospered under Roman rule, and they become the ones who ruled Britain, whilst there was a puppet governor in charge, Aulus Plautius at this stage, AD 43, and then into others. So here we go. Maybe this will be answered for you next week. So Fishbourne Roman Palace is not simply Britain's largest villa. And if we go to where it started, it is evidence of a world changing, but gradually. Within 30 years of the Roman conquest, a palace worthy of Mediterranean world would now be developing at Fishbourne. Its mosaics, gardens, and architecture, statues demonstrate how quickly Roman culture could transform a landscape. When it says how quickly, 30 years to me is not quickly, right? It's in terms of us sat here now, right? Andy's been coming to my classes since 2012, and that seems like forever. This is 30 years now that slowly started developing to the footings of the palace down the bottom. When visitors stand on its mosaics today, they are not merely looking at a house. They are looking at the moment Britain had become the Roman world. Cogadumnus, or whoever lived there, Fishbourne remains one of the most powerful archaeological statements in Roman Britain, and maybe to be answered for you by you guys next week. Discussion question. Oh, we've got to do slavery next week, haven't we? Oh, for God's sake. Oh, what a challenge. What a challenge. Looking forward to it. It's taken us completely off tack, but one of the building cogs. So we got discussion questions. If Fishbourne really was the palace of Coggadumnus, was he a loyal British king working with Rome? Was he a collaborator or a visionary who recognized where power now lay, or none of the above? So I think those are interesting questions, remain fascinating debates in Roman era Britain. But overall, we've done 3 different localities tonight, and all of them are linked. In fact, Cornwall, the Isle of Wight, and this site have got everything in common, because they tell us everything that's not military, or a little bit of military, but the military goes away. So there's loads of links there. So that's me done for tonight. I'm bowled over. I got oh, do I have to bring the goats in? Oh no, I might leave them there tonight. Take them some water maybe. Right, okay. Let's see if there's any questions. And I'm going to slip my doodah. Judith, get your mic on. Drina wants something now, don't she? You can tell she's got that. Why does Anne always get stuff? I want something, she's saying. So
that St. Catherine's Point is the southerly-most point on the Isle of Wight, not the westerly one. That's the Needles.
So the image was, I was right about the image, but St. Catherine's Point is the one pointing south.
Yeah, little pointy bit pointing south, yeah.
Now, if there's a lighthouse or signal station or something there, that would make sense, because it's signaling over to the continent. But Andy, that's not military.
No, but it would be the obvious place to put a lighthouse even in Roman times, wouldn't it?
Yeah, like Boulogne, like Dover.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. I just get Andy, keep talking. We're going to put the light on. Go on.
Yeah. Oh dear. Well, that's all I read.
All right.
No.
By the way, Andy, right? We want a full chapter and verse about the bloke that Claire was with. No. We want a full chapter and verse about the Fishbourne Villa.
Yeah, I'll try and find out about that. I tell you what, I did notice on that image of Fishbourne, right? There's no, you've got the sea right next to it, and they've got no harbour or quay or anything there. And I'm sure they would have done.
Andy, there was in the other illustration, but not in this one. This big.
Right. Yeah.
Andy, we can't always get it right. Andy, that's just really being flippantly pedantic over something that.
In Lancaster, when they did Lancaster Beyond the Castle project, they wanted to see how big the actual kind of remains were around, and realized that the Roman fort had been about 3 times bigger than they thought it was. And they discovered the port down on the riverside as well in the allotments, which is still there.
Wow.
Hang on a minute. So somebody has got the side key of the allotment in their doodah.
Yeah. The allotments, because it was it's very close to the railway line. Nobody wanted the land and wanted to do anything with it, so it ended up being allotments, possibly since the war, I'm guessing. But they discovered, they did some geophysics and found all sorts of things in there, and did a quick excavation and found a quayside in there, quite a big one. It was lovely. Yeah, really lovely. Yeah. So Fishbourne will have had a key. Yeah.
What was it? Stone or timber? What was it?
It was. I think it was actually a combination of both. But there were timber. There was quite a bit of timber there. So.
When was this excavation?
Probably 10 years ago.
Richard Newman wasn't excavating.
It might have been, yeah. It was called Lancaster Beyond the Castle. It was a very interesting project. So.
Is Richard still at the department?
I'm not sure. I'm not even sure if the department's still there. So,
hang on a minute. Are you telling me that there's no Lancaster Archaeological Department anymore?
I'm not sure there is. No.
Oh my God, that's another one. How are they?
They've closed quite a lot of them. Yeah.
Oh right.
Most of the stuff is the what's it? University of North Lancashire that does a lot of the archaeology now. But,
if we type in when we're going to do it, when did Lancaster archaeology close? Oh, right, yeah. Yeah, do you know? He was actually the site excavation director at Cosmester Medieval Village. That's how I know. Oh my God! No, this can't be right. No,
it's quite a while ago.
No, Andy. They said Lancaster University closed its archaeology department in 1989. That can't be right. Because
no, I think it did. Yeah, it was. It was before the recent load of cuts.
That was 1989.
Yeah, that was the last century, Carl.
But shut up, Andy. I think I'm getting it mixed up with the Lancaster Archaeological Unit.
Yeah, yes, but very different. Yeah,
this unit.
You got Oxford Archaeology North is Lancaster as well. So.
And that joined it in 2001, right?
Yeah,
so that's what Richard went with. Richard went in that.
Yeah.
So we'll have to track.
But the Preston one is I think the University of North Lancs or whatever is the one that does most of the archaeology now, educationally. So. All
right. So he was involved with a certain Karen Price, right? Oh my God, Richard Newman, principal archaeologist at Humber Archaeology Partnership.
Oh, okay.
And there he is. He's there, Dr. Richard Newman.
Yeah. Oh
my God, he's still about.
Yeah, but he was quite good.
Well, fair enough.
Although I think Claire had a run-in with him.
Oh, can you tell you what? You tell me about Claire's run-in, and I'll just tell you about my dabblings with him. Go on.
Yeah. Oh, I can't remember. I just had a feeling that she had an argument. It was with a archaeologist from up here that she had an argument with that, and I think it might have been him, but I might be wrong on that one.
It was quite easy to have an argument with Richard.
Possible,
basically, he's still practicing archaeologist at the Humber Archaeology Partnership. He's been with them since January 2020. Now, and he's also involved with Wardle Armstrong Archaeology, which that's Peter Wardle, but who also worked down here. But
they do stuff up here as well, Wardle.
Yeah, but Richard. Basically, I was working at Cosmester Medieval Village one day, and he said, show this artifact to a certain archaeologist. And he looked at the artifact. It was a piece of Roman Samian ware with a stamp on the bottom. And the archaeologist said, here you go, you can have it back, right? And I thought he meant that I could have it, right? Yeah. So I took it home and it was on my dresser. And I thought, oh my God, this is Roman Samian ware stamp on a bowl, right? And my mum ran up the stairs. She said, why have you upset this archaeologist? There's a postcard saying that he said he really needs this artifact back, right? And he will forgive me for taking the artifact. And I'm thinking, oh God, I thought I was giving it. So no, I was okay with Richard. And then he had a falling out with the Glamorgan Gwent Archaeological Trust, and he ended up going up there. So there you go. Right. Anyway, Andy, we've done our bit now. I don't know where we are. Yeah. My God, it's still right.
We need to ask everybody else if they've got any questions now.
I can't be asked. Roger, anything you want to say? Roger, I've got to be honest with you, Roger. On behalf of everyone else, you look a lot better now.
You do, Rog. Yes, definitely do.
He did look like Gorbachev at one point.
I hope you don't get it, Buster.
Yeah.
Roger, anything you want to say, love?
No, I'm going.
Roger.
Hi, Rog. Good to see you.
Roger, you'll be in the caravan with me next week, all right, love? No, Rog! Rog! Roger, night-night! Please, save me from this hell! Right. Right, so have we done you, Anne?
No, but I haven't got anything to add. tonight.
Well, look, basically, Secret Drina's just sent me a message, right? I don't care if Anne's got anything to say. She's dominated the whole lecture tonight, right? She's also got you doing a lecture next week on her behalf, right? And she's expecting you to send her some wool, right? So we haven't confirmed
But look,
right?
I've got.
Oh my!
Right. I mean, I know it's nothing to do, but I thought it was appropriate.
They used them 2,000 years ago. So.
They still use them today, right? What you've got to work out, what you've got to work out, right? You've got to give me an answer next week. You can either have 10 handfuls of mixed colour wool, or you can have.
At a moment, you're rushing me a bit. I don't even know how to do this. So the first thing I'm going to do is read it up, and Drina's given me some wool to start.
Okay, fine. No, I'm sorry I rushed you. I should have left it till next week. Okay, we'll leave it till there. Hey, Anne, don't mind me. You get me to do stuff. Just fine. It's all right. Don't worry about it. It's all right. Leave it there. Right. Okay. No, next week you can let me know. Right. Oh, my wool's not good enough for you, is it? It's Drina. Oh my God, she's really.
Drina just gave me a bit to learn with.
Teaching
I think that's wool she got off me. Right, Drina, anything you want to say?
No. The only thing's a bit petty. The bridge across the river at between those two places.
Chichester.
Right. Yeah. Thank you.
Nova Magus. Yeah.
How would the ships get in and out?
They'd go over it.
Okay. All right. That's fine.
Because what they would do what the Vikings did, right? They would just like go on one side and then they would just project the bridge over, right? And they would take it to the other side. Yeah. They were Irish boat builders. No, bridge builders. They're Irish. You can imagine Paddy's. What we got to do? We got to build the bridge. How did they get in there? I don't go into. They go over.
That's true, actually. Every illustration.
No. What?
Every illustration I've seen of a Roman bridge has no means of getting a boat past it, does it?
No.
They're always like a pontoon bridge.
Yeah.
Those Irish bridges, this Irish builders, you see. This Irish builders.
Slaves. All the Irish have always been slaves. You go and enslave them.
It's not really working, this bridge, is it? No. I think we'll knock it all down. Hey, top of the world, sister. Or it's a pontoon bridge. They every time they just like this is Paddy O'Murphy's building company. I heard you had a problem with the other building company. So what we do every time you've got a boat that needs to go through, we'll demolish the bridge and then we'll charge them all to rebuild it. Yeah. Right. So if we do this every day, we'll make an absolute fortune.
That sounds more like it.
And that was responsible for the felling of all the trees across Britain. Because
you ought to write that for what is he still around? Who did Delaney's donkey and that? It sounds about the same sort of nonsense.
Hey, do you know what? I'll tell you what. I'll do that as a comedy sketch. I'm going to do that as a comedy sketch. I'm going to do that tomorrow.
I think it'd work really well as a follow this. Yeah.
What we'll do, we'll start with that illustration, right? We'll have two archaeologists talking, and we'll have an Irish right. That's because I built it. Oh no, we'll do that. So we got one Irish boat builder building a bridge that nobody could get any bridge under, so they could take the bridges over. And then there was a complaint, so they had to demolish them. Oh, this is going to be great. This is good.
It would be really good. Yeah.
Nobody said anything about boats. I thought that was just a fold in the plan.
But there is one, right? If you use boats that sink, right? Sinking boats, right? Yeah. They sink before you get to the bridge. You won't have to demolish the bridge.
Well, they did use sinking boats, didn't they?
That's a good plan, yeah.
Was it in Holland that they found, or Belgium that they found a load of sunken boats in a harbour area to build up the banking?
Yeah.
It's the Irish boat bridge builders. Paddy O'Murphy had a commission to build a bridge across the
wooden boats, and it didn't actually last that long. So,
it's an invisible bridge. Ah, you see, I built it. I can't see a bridge there. It's invisible. Right. Oh God. Oh, don't do any more. Don't do this anymore, Drina. This is too much.
I'm very sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you apologise. You should be apologising for everything. Right. Anyway, Drina, right? Don't mention wool, right? Anything you want to say?
No, that was the only thing.
Oh, that's good. Oh, thank God for that. I look. If Judith has got anything to say, right? I hope it's normal. Judith.
No, nothing, thank you.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah.
That's good. That finishes it off nicely.
Yeah.
Oh, right,
Yeah. Putting you all out of your misery.
yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I did this sort of thing on my YouTube channel earlier on, so I may as well get that out to you in the next couple of days with the comedy sketch. Yeah, we'll do that. We'll have me talking in the bridge. We'll have me talking in the woodland with the sheep. Right. Okay, then. On that note, we're going to call it a night. We've finished really early tonight. 6 minutes to 10. That's so early. Right. And whatever you do, Drina, don't mention wool. Right.
Okay. Okay.
It's because Margaret's not here. That's why we finished.
Oh,
early.
could you imagine if Margaret was here? It'd be an absolute bloody nightmare. Can you imagine what she'd have to say about wool, rhubarb? Do you know what she said about rhubarb? She said, I'm not buying any rhubarb off you. I've got some in my own garden. I thought, oh, I won't bother mentioning anything next time. Don't mind me.
Well, I have to buy some when you got some more, because I did enjoy it, and I did find a different. I've never cooked it like that before. I mess about with cooking, and I really fancy trying it with meat. I do, yeah. Which so when you can send me some more when you.
What you want, some lamb as well?
Pardon?
You want some lamb as well, do you?
No, you can't.
No, I'm not cutting her up. She's my little pet.
poor little Larry the lamb.
I said to Snowdrop, I said, as she sat there nicely, I said, you don't need those 4 legs. You'll be okay with 3.
Yeah.
Oh, I tell you what, I used to give my little daughter Kerry Ann. I used to have her on my shoulders. And I used to get her little leg, and I used to say, as she's on my shoulders, I said, "Oh, this is a nice leg. You don't need both legs." And she said, "Daddy, I need both legs." And I said, "No, you can hop all around with one leg." And she started crying. So I calmed her down. Then I said, "Oh, you don't need both these arms." She said, "Daddy, I'm not playing this game, right? I need both my arms. This is ridiculous."
You're right.
How do you sleep at night?
Yeah.
Oh, I tell you what. One last thing before you go. One last thing, right? I used to take my children for a late night walk, right? And used to have a road that went in a country lane. Used to have a road that used to go around like a sharp bend, right? And when on the straight book bit, you could see lights in the distance, right? And I knew when you went around the bend, right, you couldn't see any lights, right? So and I think this was caught up by a social worker, because one of my children reported me to the teacher, right? So they went around the corner, right? And I kept saying to my 2 really chatty children, I said, "Look, be quiet. I was trying to get your little sister to sleep, right?" And they kept talking. I told them, I said, "If you don't stop talking now, right? Yeah, all the lights will go out and it'll get really dark, right? And the trolls will come out of the trees, right, and turn you to stone, right?" Yeah. So they wouldn't stop talking, right? And then suddenly all the lights went out, and the one said to the other, "Oh, Daddy's right. The trolls are going to turn us to stone." And they ran all the way home crying to their mum, right? I did that night after night, and they believed it every time until a teacher, I had a social worker coming over the house complaining, saying he's giving the children nightmares. This is just unacceptable. They should have. I got to be honest with you. I was in the right. They should have been quiet, right?
I mean, if you terrify children, then they'll be quiet, do they? It's not what happens.
And my eldest daughter remembers this to the day. She said, "It just."
I bet she does. Yeah, it's the sort of thing she would.
Yeah, exactly. Every time. So, mind you, I still got their sister off to sleep, so that was the main thing. That was the main thing. She just got off to sleep. That was good. That was good. Right, on that note, right? Do you know, I do a great comedy show, right? Yeah. The thing is, the problem is, if I write them down, right, I'm not able to sort of do them spontaneously, right? So, life. Right, on that note, right, if there's nothing else anyone wants to say, right, we're going to call it a night. Right, before I do that, I'm going to see if there's any weird stuff being said online. Hang on a minute, just have a quick look. If there, oh, hang on, we'll just see if there's anything being. I don't think anyone's joined us tonight, right? There's nobody joined us tonight, which is a bit of a shame, but never mind. All right, then, we're going to call this a night. So anyway,
it's an unusual, might it? Don't you think?
Yeah, it has been odd. It has been odd. Right, it has been odd. It's probably we started off talking about animals. What put people off?
There is a World Cup match on.
Yeah.
Oh, there is a World Cup. That's what Roger's.
Yeah.
David watching. Right.
Yeah. Quite possibly.
Is that the England one?
No, that's tomorrow. It's France and Spain tonight.
It's also happening in the World Cup and the tennis. It's all, you can't put the telly on without his sport, can you, in a minute?
Oh, well, and Anne Widdecombe, but that's something else.
Oh, yeah, Anne Widdecombe. That's
that was awful.
Terrible.
Yeah, it is absolutely awful.
Not a great fan of hers, but that was awful.
It was.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't even believe why they would even bother doing it.
Yes, I mean, I haven't. I've heard about it, but I haven't followed it closely. Do they know anything about the reason why it happened?
They haven't said yet.
No, they think it. They denied it was terrorism linked, but now they think it is. And somebody traveling 300 miles to an address is not accidental.
No, it's well deliberate.
Yeah, terrible, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's put a bit of a dampener on things.
Absolutely.
Well, this will make it even worse, right? You won't have Sam Neill coming out to save you from dinosaurs anymore, will you? No. It is a shame, and do you know what? He nearly ended up being Gandalf.
Right.
Yeah, he was going to be Gandalf on Lord of the Rings, but he was filming Jurassic Park 3 at the time, right? And it was, weirdly enough, they were filming Lord of the Rings in New Zealand, where Sam Neill lives, right? He was actually filming Jurassic Park somewhere else, right? And it would have been perfect for him to have done Jurassic Park, for him to have done Lord of the Rings, because he lives in, it's the way it works.
Yeah.
It's the way it works. On that note, folks, we'll see you all next week.
Yeah.
And before one of you mentions Donald Trump, we'll see.
If you can send me another batch of rhubarb, that would be very nice.
All right then, I will put you on the list for rhubarb. She managed to get. Do you see what she did there, Gina? She got it rhubarb in there eventually.
Yeah, rhubarb. Yeah.
Rhubarb. Okay then, folks. I'm gonna go, so I will see you all next week.
Okay. Good night.
Bye, everyone.
Good night.
Thanks, Carl.
Andy,
Bye-bye.
Gina, and everybody else. Judith, Gina, Andy, Anne. Night. Bye. Night. Don't mention the rhubarb, folks. Night.
Wait a minute, I can't find them. Oh, wait a minute, there it is.
Still don't mention the rhubarb.
There we
are. That was extremely bizarre, folks. I got to go out and do the animals. Thank you very much for joining us. And to be honest with you, as it cools down, I get more energy because it's just like it's good. So we've done all that now, and it's all for the good of the country and saving chickens and sheep. Okay, night, folks. Okay, diolch yn fawr I chi. Nos da. Nothing in the chat box. There was nothing in there. Chat 1, chat 2, chat 3, chat 4, chat 5, chat 6, chat 7, chat 1, chat 2, chat 3, chat 4, chat 5, chat 6, chat 7, chat 8, chat 9, chat 11, chat 12, chat 13,
chat 14, chat 15, chat 16, chat 17, chat 18, chat 19, chat 20. Nostach